Yeah. Yeah. I know they mad for no reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Gotta move fast for a reason. I'm holding on to change my life. Huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Oh, 700K, I'm selling a Bitcoin. Haters mad, but they listen to this one. More profit coming to my direction. You know me, I don't need a mention. I got the remedy, ooh, yeah. They don't just follow me, ooh, yeah. You say allegedly, ooh, yeah. You would subscribe to me, ooh, yeah. Staring at chart, drawing a line. Make a decision, you out of time. Huddling, huddling, huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. Huddling, huddling. I'm staring at charts until I retire. Yeah. See what I'm saying? On-chain revolution. Youngest phone.
Welcome back to On-Chain Revolution. My name is Shizzy. On this channel, we cover the entire crypto ecosystem. What is up, guys? We have an amazing show for you guys today. We're live from the On-Chain Hour, and this morning we saw Bitcoin actually hit $80,000. I'm not sure if it hit 79. I don't think it did, but it was pretty bad. I woke up at probably like 4 in the morning, checked my phone, and I saw 83, and I was like, damn. And then it just kept dropping and dropping. I think right before the Fed, one of the Fed talk happened, we were at 80,000. It does feel like we're headed back down there. There's a lot going on in the space right now. Yesterday, you had Tom Lee go on CNBC and kind of explain to some of the hosts there what happened on 1010, and they're blown away by it. They were shocked. We're actually going to show that video. It's a few minutes long, but I think it's actually eye-opening, the fact that they had no idea what happened. And then Rand put out a tweet basically saying that all the treasury, the Bitcoin dApps, or I'm sorry, the Bitcoin treasury dApps or whatever DATs are actually in trouble because they can be taken down from the all that stuff. So we're gonna get into that. I gotta cover it in depth, but Raoul Paul basically said he's coming out and saying we are in trouble potentially, but it could be a V-shaped recovery. We'll get into that as well, but it just sucks right now. Like, I'm trying to be positive, but if we end up being in a bear market that is a normal bear market where it's just boring for 12 months. Me and Yagobi were just talking about it, right? So the last bear market started from peak to trough. It started November of 2021, and it finished November of 2022. It was kind of like that bottom, $16,000 for Bitcoin. If we see something like that again, where Bitcoin, it takes an entire year, and we don't see any bullish momentum until October of next year, I think that most of the space is going to be kind of wiped out. I feel like you're going to see projects just kind of completely just go away because out of funding, out of time, out of excitement. So I'm a little worried now. I haven't been this worried in a while, and it sucks. It really sucks because this might be exactly what the bigger guys want, the banks want. They want to kind of wipe us all out and just use crypto rails and kind of get rid of this whole genre of crypto meme coins and crypto excitement and just retail using this stuff. Maybe they want them to kind of go over chain. I don't know, on chain their stuff. Yeah, I'm just at a loss for words right now. I'm just kind of really just pissed off, I guess the words would say, but it is what it is. Nothing we can do. We got it. We're here to kind of show you guys the news and kind of hope for better times ahead, but it's kind of bleak right now. The famous poet Eminem once said, "How can you be positive when you don't see shit positive?" So I'm in that boat today, guys. But it is Friday. Hopefully we can kind of get some momentum here for next week. But who really knows? Let me bring my partner here, as always, Mr. Yagobi. What's up, buddy?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
What's up, man? Tell me you're feeling a little better than I am right now.
I am feeling a little bit better than you. I mean, that intro was pretty dark, right there, right? But at the end of the day, I get it. I get why you're feeling that way. Um, I one thing I kind of don't agree with what you said there was I don't think everybody's going to be gone. I think there's going to be possibly some names of brands and companies and stuff that pop up that weren't necessarily here the entire time, and you start to really see the industry being set because they're extremely well funded and startups that are being curated by the people that want to control the space, right? And so it's all about them getting theirs, I think. And that's the part I do agree with you. I think that that's probably what's happening right now, other than some other stuff, maybe infrastructure wise, or not even infrastructure. I think maybe like behind the curtains that we can't prove. So there's no need to really pinpoint those necessarily just yet, because I think if I'm right about some of these things, then we'll see that pretty clearly next year, I think. But yeah, I'm in the boat of pushing forward and putting one foot in front of the other, right, and just trying to picking ourselves up and trying to make the best of the situation and learning as much as possible.
Yeah, but your kind of point was kind of like on my point as well. Like you're basically saying there's gonna be a bunch of new stuff entering the space that are well funded, but by actual brands. My point is, everything that's here now, from podcasts to projects. I mean, potentially you're gonna see a complete wipeout of everything that's actually existing now. And obviously, a lot of the time it happens like they get wiped out and then new stuff come and replenishes that. But the new stuff replenishing that is going to be all VC funded bullshit that it's just here to extract, right? You're not going to see the mom and pop shops, what I mean, the assets terminals of the world, the homegrown three guys get together, create something cool. And they're not here to extract, they're here to add value. I think all those are kind of going to get wiped out.
So I don't necessarily think they're going to be having this like extraction mentality at the like surface level necessarily, but they know where the real money is, and the real money is getting mass adoption, right, and making people's lives more convenient. That's why Apple is so successful. That's why these huge companies like Google are so successful, is because they make people's lives more convenient, and that just really hasn't happened from the Web3 native kind of ecosystem. Some, yes, but for them, whether they're going to be just using the rails or creating new type of products that do make people's lives simpler, but they don't. The consumer on the other end doesn't think about the tech stack this, tech stack that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're just like utilizing this product that uses back end blockchain infrastructure. Then that's all they care about, right? Because they know that those are the dollars that they're going to squeeze out of to get the most money, right? It's not us. They know. I mean, you look at crypto Twitter, they look at us as probably just like a kind of nuisance, I assume, or some sort of nuisance in that aspect. But like the real money is for them, and their mentality is this Web 2 adoption, right? So we'll probably see something that happened similar to Web 2 whenever the internet became mass adopted and stuff.
Yeah. Well, there is some good news in what happened over the last 12 hours, right? Was basically bull run dead. Then why is Bitcoin dominance on a downtrend, right? Or what's really going on? So we did see that. We saw Bitcoin dominance, and it's dropping right now, down to 58%. So Bitcoin's getting hit harder than some of the alts, right? Bitcoin's down 4.5%. XRP is down 4.5%. But normally what happens is Bitcoin's down 4%, XRP's down 12%, right? Bitcoin's down 4%. You're seeing a Cardano down 30%, right? You're not seeing that right now. You're actually seeing a lot of these altcoins with really strong holders and saying, we haven't sold yet, we're not going to sell. You're not seeing a lot of momentum to the downside. I mean, Merlin chain, for instance, is up on the day. Like, which is absolutely
that's
crazy.
been kind of a consistent theme with them, though, right? Showing strength whenever the market's pulled back. But to your point, though, when you officially wave that white flag and say, okay, we are officially in the bear market, Bitcoin has this aggressive downtrend, but dominance actually goes up for Bitcoin because everybody is trying to go to safety, trying to get a life preserver. And for them, it's selling those alt assets into Bitcoin. And we're just not seeing that right now, and we're actually seeing dominance go down almost kind of aggressively as the Bitcoin price goes down. And I'm going to show a chart here, and it's going to be a little bit messy, so bear with me, guys, in terms of what I'm trying to show. So this is the Bitcoin price chart, weekly price chart, in the first official candle that was fully below the 50 moving average, right? 50-week moving average. And you can see I pointed to that. So aggressive down here. And then you look at that same week, it's January 3rd, the week of January 3rd, and you see the dominance. So this is, just a little tiny example, but, it went up. So people were selling into Bitcoin out of Ethereum, out of some of these other, alt assets. But then you see this continually go up for the dominance as it was continually downtrending, right? Now, if you fast forward to where we are today, on this chart, you can see Bitcoin's obviously taken a pretty strong, dump. You see that obviously, right? Almost 2 full weekly candles under the 50 MA, right? And then you go here to the today on the dominance, and you're seeing that it's in trend, and that's just not normal. Whenever you officially wave that white flag and say the bull run is dead, bear market is here. And this should actually be green and not so aggressive looking here. And it looked like it was going to maybe possibly go that way for the dominance chart, but I mean, that got shut down really quick. So what is actually happening right here, right? So obviously you just mentioned it, people aren't getting out of these blue chip altcoins. They feel like they want to stay put for the most part. Some of them are selling down. You can see that. Maybe they're going more into stables, trying to wait and see what's happening here. So this is pretty early preliminary data, I would say, right? We don't have enough just yet, but it's not your normal bear market trend of both of those correlating to the same direction of Bitcoin price and dominance, right? It's typically dominance going up, Bitcoin going down, and alts being sold into it. So, with that being said, there's some other theories of what has caused Bitcoin to crash here. Do we get a possible Bitcoin continually crashing, selling into alts, maybe, because we haven't seen any of that really happening, other than maybe some of Bitcoin being sold into Ethereum, starting in April, May, June, July. But Bitcoin also had some thrust ups in July and August as well, June and July and August. So, we could see something like that to where, we get a pleasant surprise and we go into a little bit more risk on, maybe in December. But there's a lot of possibilities out there. I was in the Ordinal Hive space yesterday, and a lot of people agreed that, go into charts and stuff, Alpha Gamer being one, saying that, hey, look, this is uncharted territory a little bit. And, learning how this is going to play out is going to be really crucial, but also playing the opportunities as the market gives us is also crucial. And that means, like, when you get that opportunity, don't be in that opportunity too long necessarily until we get into risk on.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. And the sense too is, like, altcoins didn't really have any bull run at all. I mean, there hasn't been anything. So maybe altcoins don't go into a bear. Maybe we just go sideways continuously for, another couple, 7 months here. And there is no really selling into Bitcoin, because everyone who's wanted to sell, they've already sold. Right, they're already out of the markets. I mean, right now it's just you're just not seeing much movement besides a little percent here and there. And a lot of that's probably from leverage trading as well, right? So it's probably not even like the holders even selling. It's probably just people taking shorts and stuff. So I don't know. I'm not really too worried about the altcoins really getting beat down. If Bitcoin does drop to 60 though, which a lot of people are saying, that could be, if we go below the last all-time high, that could be really dramatic.
Yeah. Well, also another thing that I got from Benjamin Cohen actually yesterday, I was listening to his show yesterday. He's talking about the ISM, the manufacturing index, which is kind of like the business cycle a bit. And during the 17 peak, that ISM was high. During the 2021 run, it was high. During the 2019, kind of in between, right? It was very low, like this, right? And that's where it is right now, kind of where we are right now. So, that, I guess, gives support to a little bit of Raoul Paul's kind of extended business cycle, right? Because of COVID, throwing that off, right? So you push that back a year. So 2026 could have that possibility of having the euphoria that we didn't get. You had euphoria here. You had euphoria here. You had apathy pretty much the entire run. And that's coming from Benjamin Cohen, that is a Bitcoin guy, and realized that Bitcoin did hit 126. And he's still he's honest about it and saying that wasn't euphoric at all, right? But we had euphoria here. But it kind of makes sense when you look at the ISM, I guess sentiment and liquidity. There was no liquidity. It's like 2019, and you've been kind of that drum as well, right? So that's something that could carry over. And I know there's a lot of analysts and really large accounts like Raoul Paul, Rand, Neuner, and stuff that are really. It seems like everybody's scrambling, including us, right? Like everybody's trying to be like, what happened? How do you explain this? What is it? Like 2 + 2 is not equaling 4 in this scenario. Why? And people are trying to come up with their own thesis.
Yeah, 100%. Well, there is a couple of theses we're going to be jumping into. Like that's actually perfect to kind of go into it. But Rand Neuner actually came out today with a really, really good tweet that really kind of broke down potentially why October 10th was actually worse than other people were really saying. So he says we really know why the market crashed on 10 October and why it just can't bounce. We never really understood why the big crypto crash started on October 10th and why we couldn't even get a single meaningful bounce. Today, the answer seems simple. Let me break it down. DATs, digital asset treasury companies like MSTR, BMNR, and others have been one of 2 big buyers that powered the cycle. The DAT game is simple. You need to be the biggest so that you get into big indices. And when you do, passive index trackers are forced to buy large amounts of your stock. And they do get bigger and get added to more indices. And so the cycle perpetuates. On 10th of October, MSCI, the world's second biggest index company, published the below. They are questioning whether companies that hold crypto assets as the core business should be considered as companies or funds. If they are funds, they are not included in passive indexing. Why? Because this creates a singular loop. The fund buys assets, gets bigger, and then is included in the more indices and buy more assets. The expected ruling will be announced on 15th of January. And if this does pass, the companies like MSTR will automatically be removed from these indices, meaning their stocks will be getting sold down dramatically, automatically as well. It's just like, boom, gone. So people are saying as of, January 15th, we could see a ruling that takes out any company that, does have more treasury than the actual business model, then they will be completely taken out and have to sell them down. And potentially, let's just say they're in retirement funds. Those retirement funds dump the MSTR and then buy the Bitcoin, ETF. So,
yeah. So obviously this is more pertaining to Bitmine and MicroStrategy, right? These type of which those are the 2 top. The other ones, honestly, it seem like they're in trouble right now. Like they're nervous, right? Their legs are shaking a bit. But I think it would mean a ton towards MicroStrategy, and that does have the correlation to Bitcoin just because of how influential Saylor and MicroStrategy is with Bitcoin, right? Accumulating it constantly. But he did come out and say that, he would have to, like, Bitcoin would be the very, very last resort for them. It would be selling down MicroStrategy stock if it came, to a point to where I don't know how that he would handle that situation. I think it would be a really stressful situation, but they're going to vote on that, I think, in January. So people
February
could
15th.
be February. Okay. So people could
January 5th, January 15th.
Okay. January 15th. I misheard you. But people could be anticipating that, that could be a scare. I think there's something else happening, though, kind of behind the scenes. Bitcoin getting this cheap is just almost kind of, it's way too cheap, right? Like every time it would drop even like 10%, you would see BlackRock, you would see these large institutions just gobble it up. You know what I mean? So to me, I feel like there's definitely something else happening. I think we're going to learn about what that is, whether it's a government trying to, follow through with their plan or whatever it could be. Market makers having huge holes in their balance sheets. That's a strong theory as well. We all know that, like, there's definitely institutions that got hit hard. We just don't know who they are. They haven't been pointed out yet. Right, which is also another odd thing because they're not telling on each other like they did last cycle. They were telling on each other like instantly, right? And people were bringing that to the surface. But right now, it seems like there's a kind of trying to keep everything under wraps with it, right?
Yeah.
Go
Well,
ahead.
last time it was easy because it was all on chain. You just got to look at who held USD, who has what is it, USDT or UST, right? So that was easy to say. Oh, it's
Luna was
3 hours
obviously.
capital. Well, that's what I'm
Oh,
saying. Well,
oh,
Luna
see what
was
you mean.
that. So UST, who held it, right? So I mean, it was 3 hours capital. Capital was FTX. It was Celsius. It was Blockify. I mean, you immediately seen. All you had to do was check the wallet addresses, and they, all the wallet addresses were public, right? With Blockify and stuff like that. So you could see it right away. With this, it's
You can
different
find
because a
out
lot
who.
of it.
You
Well,
can
a lot
find
of
out.
it's
It would take a lot
it's
more time.
a lot of it's on Hyperliquid, right? So if these got liquidated, they're using these big or in Binance or in Hyperliquid or in centralized places that it's hard to say
But you're
who's who.
still using addresses that you can pinpoint to
No,
with
you're
Hyperliquid.
no. Well,
Yeah, you
not for
can.
Binance. Binance was one of the biggest places people got liquidated. You
Sure.
can't see anything inside
Maybe
there.
not Binance, but you can do it from Hyperliquid. You can do it with Aster if people were using Aster. You can do it with obviously all those. Even though they do use a centralized approach to get your deposits in, you still have your unique address that you're going to be using that does, do the transactions on chain. But yeah, the Binance stuff, the centralized exchange stuff, that that would obviously have to come from them to release that information, right?
Well, the thing is too is like 3 Hours Capital's wallet was public. BlockFi's address was public. Celsius was public. These guys, these hedge funds, they're not going to show you right underneath. So they're not going to publicize their addresses. That's a big difference as well, right?
Yeah,
So
it'd
even
be
if
a
they
lot
are on
harder.
Hyperliquid, they're not going to.
Take
You
more
can
time.
see massive losses all over the place, but you're not
And then
going to be able to see.
try to put those together, right? And
Zach
try to follow.
XBT could probably figure it out though.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he could, but it would. Yeah, you're right. It would take those extra big steps, or extra steps to figure that out. But one thing I mentioned before is like they're typically they would go into Bitcoin or stables whenever a bear market's officially here. Well, one thing we are seeing is this right here. So USDT dominance is looking really strong. So they're not going into Bitcoin, but they're going into stables, which to me means that automatically, I haven't done super deep thought into this, but I'm thinking there's like, okay, let me just kind of hold here in the stables because they also obviously don't know how much Bitcoin is going to bleed to, but maybe they are also trying to figure out what their next play is going to be as well, because they just need a sign of whenever, this is calmed down and when it's kind of time to get a little bit more aggressive again. But this is obviously this is the weekly too, by the way, weekly chart. So you're talking about this week looking really strong with USD tether dominance, USDT, and then 4 weeks in a row it has gone up. So we probably should have been kind of anticipating something, whenever we saw the second or third candle here, that this was going to have a continuation. So that's something to look at though.
Well, I mean, looking at that is kind of the same as looking at the Dixie, right? The Dixie is running again. It's back over 100, right? So you guys know, if you have been following the show here, that the DXY is the anti-play here. So the fact that we potentially are still in this upward trend here, that could send the Dixie back up to 101, right? So we need it to drop, and we're just not seeing that. So this is alt season down here, and it's been that way for a long time. So obviously, when people are getting into Tether and getting into that's the Dixie, right? Because that helps the dollar index, and sooner or later, that's going to be something that we're kind of looking at to kind of see, in the future. The Dixie could be added to the basket of stuff that is putting, or the USDT could be added to this. But I mean, again,
You still have to get dollars to be able to put into their.
Well, you could add USDT to the basket of goods that make up the dollar.
I mean, but you could also like just transition your other crypto into USDT too. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I think there's going to be some sort of influence if they do add it to a basket later. Then obviously more influence. But yeah, look, that chart there is one that we've been following too. It hasn't broken down below the yellow line, but it's been above it for quite some time now, right? It's almost kind of like, is it time? It seems like it's due to break down below that threshold, and when it does, there's almost every single time there's an alt season. So again, this cycle, this post having bull run supposedly a year, is completely different, and another historical pattern has been broken, at least for now.
Well, do you remember what happened in May of 2020? What turned on?
Was it money printers?
Quantitative easing. The money printer turned on May of 2020, and then
Yeah.
that caused this, right? Same thing here. Back in March of 2017, they started quantitative easing. First time since back here, right?
Ye-
So it's
Mhm.
one of those things where the money printer turned on in January 2017. Crypto peaked in February of 2018. Same thing here. The money printer turned on May of 20. Some might even say, hey, 1 year later was technically the peak, right? May of 2021.
Yeah, and I'm not sure we're gonna ever have a similar situation as that in May 2020 because every major country turned the printer on at the same time. And
Yeah.
if you look at the recovery since then, they've been turning it. So they obviously turned it off and they were, raising rates and stuff like that to try to figure out how to handle this kind of extended year, right? For
Mhm.
the business cycle. But the turning back on has been separate. It hasn't been simultaneous like it was whenever it was turned on in May of 2020, which explains every single asset class just exploding that year, just taking little turns, basically, kind of passing the torch, right? And so, obviously, we knew COVID was unique, and that we should probably not expect anything as crazy as COVID was
Mhm.
for that 2021 year, but hopefully, we can get something like 25 as close to 50% as impactful as that once things get turned back on. We just don't know when that's going to be. Is it going to be December because they're actually pausing the tightening? I don't think it's going to be a super aggressive situation in December. But again, people are going into stables to figure out
Mhm.
what's going to happen. We're just chilling here in stables, and it seems like they trust Tether or USDT because that dominance is looking strong.
Yeah, I mean, sitting, potentially, we've stopped quantitative tightening, and then potentially 2-3 months later we could start it, which means we might, that could be the start of potentially an alt season that might take 6 months to kind of get started. So even still, if you want to look back at historic data from when the time when you kind of see potential of the money printer start, it's usually 6 months before we actually start seeing the bull run start. So
Yeah, look at this. This is USDC dominance. Look at the
yeah,
difference though. It's way smaller, right?
yeah.
It's obviously in the uptrend, so we know that it's all stables, but if you compare that to this, I mean, I guess it's not as bad. Maybe I zoomed out.
It
So
looks very similar
everybody,
to USDT. Yeah,
yeah. So this is USDT here. So just a little bit more aggressive. I
yeah.
must have zoomed out of that, but people are definitely parking their money there.
Well, you got to remember too, places like Mexi, it's USDT, Binance, it's USDT,
It's more
OKX,
global.
it's USDT. I mean, on all the exchanges, if you go from any asset, like there is no trading pools with USDC anywhere but the US, right? Like Kraken has USDC pools. Most of these large exchanges that are in USDT.
Yep. Mike Bennett agrees with you. He says, "What bull run? What up?" Yeah, I mean, Shizzy was literally telling me he feels like we've been in a bear market all year, and
Since
so does
April of
Mike.
2022. So, or April, yeah, basically. I mean,
24
we
years.
had 2022, really, right? I mean, that's when
Well,
I felt it.
yeah,
And then we had this little sector of ordinals, but that was just because
that
it was
doesn't
new and
count. I feel like
sexy.
that
It
doesn't
doesn't
count.
count. Yeah. So, all right, all right. So Michael Sauer did come out and he responded to that, right? Basically saying like, no, and there's nothing to worry about. Very similar to what you said there. But Tom Lee has a different scenario. He actually think there was a bug of some kind. I'm gonna play this. I haven't watched the full thing, so it should be pretty interesting. It's about 4 to 5 minutes, so it is a little long, but I do think it's kind of worth showing here. So we'll just jump right into this right here. Make sure the volume's on.
I think the crypto market has been limping along since October 10th because on that date was a negative shock. I mean, today's stock market looks a lot like an echo of what happened October 10th. But on October 10th, that liquidation was so big, Brian, it really crippled market makers. And our market makers are critical in crypto because they provide liquidity. I mean, they act almost as the central bank in crypto. And if they've got a hole in their balance sheet that they need to raise capital for, they need to reflexively reduce their balance sheet, reduce trading, And if prices fall, they've got to then do more selling. So I think that this drip that's been taking place for the last few weeks in crypto reflects this market maker crippling. And so in 2022, it took 8 weeks for that to really get flushed out. We're only 6 weeks into it. So I kind of concur. I think crypto, Bitcoin and Ethereum are in some ways a leading indicator for equities because of that unwind and now this sort of limping and weakened liquidity.
Well, that was the point that my very, very smart team behind me, we put together for the top of the show, which was showing that Bitcoin turned down today before the market did. All right, take us back. So October 6th, I think it was October 6th or 7th, Bitcoin hit 125,000. Yeah, a couple days later, it was still around 120,000. Now, obviously, Bitcoin's at 86 and change. So what specifically occurred on or around October 10th that would lead us to where we are now on what, November 20th?
Yeah. Well, Steve actually pointed this out. There's a lot of what they call automated processes in crypto. One of them is called ADL, okay, and that's an automatic liquidation feature that would take place if someone's account or their collateral drops in price. It's essentially like a margin call. On a specific exchange, a stablecoin's price varied from other exchanges. It actually, stablecoin should stay at $1. It dropped to 65 cents. But that only happened within the exchange quotes, within this exchange because of liquidity. That triggered an ADL, an automatic liquidation across many accounts. It wiped out, as that spread across other exchanges, right? Because liquidations cascade. Almost 2 million crypto accounts got wiped out, even though minutes before they were actually profitable accounts.
So who is behind this? Like, who's the they in the market makers and they got hit? Who's the they?
Well, Brian, I am aware of names, but because I'm not someone who wants to name names, I think what you should keep in mind is that this error is actually essentially a bug, a code error, because I think in retrospect, they would have pulled pricing from across exchanges to set the price for that stablecoin rather than rely on internal quotes. But this has resulted in a lot of market makers and traders having less capital. And as you know, as crypto prices drift lower because trading volumes drop, they need to then have more capital available, which means they shrink their balance sheet further. So this is then that reflexive weakening.
I want to go back to this point, Tom. I hate the term glitch. I can't stand the term glitch because, things go down at the airport and they say, well, a glitch caused your flight to not take off. That's not a glitch. That's more than a glitch. It's a word that is used to describe pretty serious automation issues, software problems, crashes, for some reason that they try to minimize. Is this some kind of a software bug that's causing part of this? I'm trying to follow exactly what you're hinting around about.
Brian, it is. For instance, in 1987, portfolio insurance was the quote glitch, and that triggered the cascade in 1987. And so the industry learned and then never offered that again. In 2009, it was really the collateral wasn't secure in real estate and these packaged subprime mortgages. Now, the industry learned and they recoded that. I'm talking about Wall Street, but then regulators came in and overregulated. That was the negative effect of that. In crypto, this code of ADL and the way they pull prices never going to happen again. The good news is we're not going to have overregulation in crypto, but now we have to deal with that liquidation effect. 2022 was a big liquidation, and it took 8 weeks. But that is kind of, you're right. It is the nature of DeFi where there is going to be code and there's going to be an error found. And you said it, leverage is what's dangerous. And so investors should not be using excess leverage in crypto.
Yeah. A lot was said there. What's your main takeaway?
That he was wanting to say this is Binance's fault because they were in transition of switching Oracle service providers, and they went to an internal software Oracle solution for the time being, and it triggered a cascade of liquidations.
Yeah.
We're still suffering from that.
Yeah. I mean, my main takeaway, he kept saying 8 weeks. He said it like 3 different times. And, October 10th right now was 6 weeks ago. So do you think we still have 2 more weeks of this? Like, I don't know why he was harping so much. He said the Luna stuff took 8 weeks to kind of fix itself.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened around that time period, man. And for me, my mind can't be quiet about it. Like with myself, thinking about it with myself, right? Like, I mean, there was just the 10/10 event, and then the pardoning and the being able to come up with a certain sum amount to be able to pay the troops while the government was shut down, and all these things. And then this event, and with the Oracle switch, it just happened to, like, you know what I mean, like, and no fingers pointing to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like, who's protecting these people? What's happening? You know what I mean? There's just so much that's just weird about the entire situation that I just don't even want to, like, guess. I already have my own guesses internally, right, of what it is. But in the 8-week situation, it doesn't have to be 8 weeks, right? But he's just giving, I guess, a historical event that happened and how long it took then.
Mm-hmm.
But look, I mean, we're close enough to that time, right? I think we're coming up on 7, and then in December we'd be in the 8th week, right? So it's like perfect timing too. But why isn't there more information coming out with this? Also, you made a good point when we show prepped, is why is the media just now talking about this? That clip was from yesterday, right? I mean, this event happened 3 weeks ago. No,
they had no idea. They had no idea.
Ago.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking over a month and a half.
A month and a half. Ago. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. When FTX was happening, it was all over the media instantly. You know what I mean? Like, very, very quickly. And so it's almost kind of like the large infrastructure people or entities within our space is intentionally trying to keep this, like, not being a topic that's, beaten down about. And maybe, that could be a good thing too, so you don't scare retail away even more. Mm-hmm. Right. But at the same time, I mean, there's got to be some sort of accountability for that situation. You know what I mean?
I mean, look, wouldn't even name who he thought it was. He was a little scared on that sense to name Binance,
was he not?
To name Wintermute, to name OKX, right? We know where the biggest holes are. There's from these exchanges who give leverage out. Yeah,
well, I mean, the customers were the biggest holes, because that holes in their pockets. Because, like, he said that 2 million accounts, dude, 2 million accounts got liquidated. Okay, that's a lot of accounts. That's across all DeFi, which is probably the smaller portion of that. All of centralized entities, which is probably the larger portions of that, right? But you're talking about 2 million accounts. We sometimes say, how many people are on crypto Twitter? Like, maybe 100K, maybe like the 200K. No, you know what I mean? I'm just saying active ones, right?
50,000,
maybe. Okay. 2 million accounts that are just doing their own thing. A big percentage of those were in, like, smaller leverage. And that's the part that I think really upset the cut consumers of our industry, is the ones that were in 2 to 5x leverage. 5x, some people want to say, well, that's high. Okay, cool. There were some people with 2 to 3x leverage that got liquidated. Some of them were doing cross margin type of stuff, fine. But 2 to 3x leverage, like, and they were in the green and they got liquidated. I mean, you can't win.
Yep. And giant hedge funds are, another ones that could be, that were really affected, because a lot of them were saying, hey, I can't make money in altcoins, but I can make money taking leverage. So you would put like $100 million on a 2x, think they were safe, because Bitcoin getting down to 50K or 40K was, at that point was unheard of. Not going to happen. You're very safe. And then before that happens, you can potentially add liquidity. But imagine what happens if, boom, it comes down real quickly touches those liquidation prices, and then boom, gone. And that's what you're kind of seeing, right? You kind of saw that happen with a lot of altcoins as well. For people who took leverage on altcoins were some of them down 99%. So they came down and touched every single one of them. So I don't know.
Well,
Stan said it was Putin and North Korea. So I don't know.
Could be, but I was gonna say too. Also, like those people with 2-3x leverage, they have stop losses, guys. But this happened so quickly that it just ran through it. You know what I mean? And so that's the one part that people don't talk about when you set a stop loss. Set a these situations. If the wick is so fast that the orders go through, like sometimes it misses it. So
yeah, but this is a once in a. I mean, from my understanding, this was the only time it's ever happened.
He said that it won't ever happen again. But
yeah,
tell that to the people that lost all that money.
Well, tell it to the people who own Bitmine too. The Bitmine ETH portfolio is down $4.5 billion. So yeah, so they're almost down exactly what they put in. I mean, they made some money on the way up with Ethereum, but if Ethereum keeps dropping, they put in about $10 billion. So they're down about 40% on the portfolio there.
And Sam made a good point here. He said Tom promised TradFi a 15 grand Ethereum. I can only imagine TradFi's outlook on crypto and Tom returning their phone calls. Well, technically he has a month and 9 days to reach 15,000. Will it happen? I doubt, but
that's one thing I did think about, right? If there's a lot of holes in these areas in these market makers and stuff like that, and these decentralized exchanges, another way for them to make money is to kind of push the prices up, right? Because if you now are holding a lot of Ethereum, you potentially could push the prices up very quickly and then start taking profit on them at like 10k 12k for Ethereum, right? So that could be something that happens. We could see them say, okay,
make up for it.
We made enough money on the downside, let's now destroy the shorts and push this thing back up, and then start taking profit again up top.
Could be, but one thing too is like we're not hearing any DAT headline news of new stuff, new DATs coming in.
Who the hell is stupid enough to do a DAT right now?
I'm just saying, but if you go back 3 months ago, we were hearing new stuff every day, right? Every day. That killed all the October 10th killed a bunch of DATs as well, right? Because they were. Good thing we didn't get deep into risk on, because imagine if like the DATs had gone down the risk curve like deeper. Hyperliquid was being talked about, for certain DATs and stuff like that. So it could have been worse. It could have been worse. I'll tell you that. I don't know to the extent how bad it was, but obviously if it's 400 billion, it's the worst that we've seen. But I guess it could have been worse. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But like I can't see a new DAT come. I mean, you got this ruling that's happening, January 15th, that they heard about. It's crazy too. They heard about this on 1010. Isn't that crazy? They heard about this 1010. This news came out 1010. We missed it. We didn't see this news at all. Because it's mainly TradFi stuff, right? We probably just didn't look into it, but it came out on 1010, and then the huge liquidation happened on 1010, and now there's going to be no new DAT until January 15th. You're not going to hear any DAT news until January 15th, because they're not going to want to start this if they're going to get started. These indices are going to start dumping this stock automatically.
Yeah, and if you don't think the entities that are extremely good at shorting companies and TradFi didn't make money off of what's been happening and still making money, then you probably should look more into that. I wouldn't be surprised if Citadel and those type of groups like have a lot of gains from what we're going through right now with Bitcoin and stuff.
Yeah. Superfan says, not worried. Trump will be able to print cash soon. We'll make it all back. Bulls will be running. I mean, when you say soon, are you saying in May? Because I just can't see them potentially starting quantitative easing until things get really bad. I could see us, be in this pausing area, this do nothing area. I mean, you got to remember from 1990 to 2008, there was no quantitative easing. There was no that stuff that didn't exist back then. It was created in 2008 when the housing crisis happened. So we can be in this this area where they're not doing anything for 5 months.
Yeah, we could. But remember though, this year has shown to be volatile out of nowhere. So I mean, it could happen. We had the rate cut percentage like completely change out of nowhere. I guess they all just decided, hey, look, let's make some announcements about the job markets and change the tone. Basically, now you had a 24% chance on Polymarket of a December rate cut, close to 70%. That's a huge jump. I don't remember it being 24% though.
All year we were talking about potentially 3 rate cuts this year, right? From January of 2025, but it didn't happen until September. So, and then we got one in October and now potentially in December. So, you know what I mean? Like the Fed doesn't like to show their hand at all. They like to make you think, and they use their words as they use their words as one of their tools to kind of keep inflation down. So if you're feeling bullish, if you're feeling like you want to go out and take a loan, they're kind of like, well, it might not be cheaper, or it might be cheaper. So it's like the Fed doesn't show their hand at all. Everyone was thinking in January, February, we're gonna get three rate cuts this year, and potentially we still will. It just came at the very, very last last portion of the year.
Yeah, but everybody obviously took the last Fed meeting as a hawkish tone in that we weren't going to cut. That was, whether you want to say it was pushed by the media as well, they jumped on it, they piggybacked it, and it crashed the percentages of a rate cut happening in December. And then they wait.
Exactly what I'm talking about. That's the Fed tool. That's one of their tools they use is
to manipulate the minds of manipulate the minds of the market, because
the question that came out from the reporter, it was obviously given handpicked by him, right? Because he picks the questions. The thing was, are we guaranteed a rate cut for December? That was the question. He said no, 100% no, or depending on the data. That was the exact quote. That was the only quote.
Did you take it as that we weren't going to cut though? Because it seemed like
not really. I mean, at the time, I depend on Polymarket, right? I depend on Polymarket for that. So when Polymarket dropped there,
started tanking.
Yeah, but then it was manipulated, because then all you hear is like the NBC. Now they're kind of ignoring the fact that question was handpicked and the way it was answered, and they started saying no rate cut. It was almost like it was manipulated on purpose, for the numbers to go down. So but that's kind of like, you know what I mean. But it was. If you really look into it and you really start to hear what happened, you're kind of just like, oh, well, we're definitely gonna get a rate cut still. It's just not, it depends on he's always said he's dependent on the data. So it's like, what's new, right? He says it every time.
So Polymarket is basically the one that's kind of, setting the market sentiment, right? And now it seems like it changed a bit. Bitcoin did rebound a little bit, but nothing's really helping it really get that aggressive upside yet.
Yeah, 100%. And that kind of leads us right into, December rate cut odds spiked from 27%, which they were this morning, to 70% in 24 hours. It is pulling back a little bit, back to 63, but it's all because White House advisor Hassett says data suggests the Federal Reserve should cut interest rates in December. And then the New York Fed President John Williams said Friday he expects the central bank can lower its key interest rate from here as labor weakness poses a bigger threat than higher inflation. And then right after that, the Cleveland Fed came out. President Beth Hammack on Thursday gave indications that she thinks the central bank could be nearing the end of what could be a brief rate cut cycle. So she actually came out and said the opposite there yesterday. But then the Fed John Williams came out today and said, and he's one of the bigger. He actually has a vote, and he actually said that potentially we will be. So last night you saw it at 27 when Beth spoke, and then this morning with John Williams, and there was a few more people that spoke as well. You had a couple other Fed people as well. So your Fed president, a couple other ones as well. So, but it looks like the S&P is rebounding. It looks like the whole stock market is rebounding. I guess Bitcoin's rebounding a little bit too, back up near 84.
Yeah, I mean it wicked down to 80,500, right? So that's definitely a rebound. It wicked back up to like 85, and now it's kind of just chopping. But maybe people are just excited about a possibility of this rate cut, right? S&P and the indexes and stuff like that, right? They seem like they're responding well to the possibility of us getting that.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like you kind of brought up this morning. You said, if these rate cuts are such a big deal, then why haven't we really seen anything? And I guess my answer back was, because of 1010, right? Like, because you got to remember too, the S&P was at an all-time high just like 5 days ago.
Yeah, but I was talking specifically about the digital
Crypto,
asset market.
but I think the reason for that though is 1010, and there's holes in a lot of balance sheets that a lot of these guys are selling down their spot holdings of Bitcoin and Ethereum to kind of fill those holes up, especially when it came to USDT and stuff like that. So I think that's why we haven't really seen a bullish Q4, and I think there's a blame for that. But it usually opens up. There's a lot of catch up that usually happens, right? So if crypto goes
there's some
to where it needs
forecasts
to go,
there's some speculation, market speculation too that plays into some of them. Whenever someone, you're anticipating a rate cut for a long time and it feels good. We didn't get much of that outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum and a couple of those top blue chips. That's what kind of made me feel that way, right? So I'm talking about like August. We're sitting in August. The September poly market is sitting at like 90% at that point. We're not seeing some of these more for the September cut. It got crazy. It got really high at that point whenever we were anticipating the September rate cut. And
yeah,
really you didn't see much benefit from going past, let's say like the top maybe like 20 coins or whatever, the legacy ones that are just blue chip strong. And I think most of the market was like waiting for that euphoria of hitting those down the risk curve type situations. And because we didn't get any of that really, that's what I was kind of, I feel like I've had that feeling kind of hang over, through September and then again in October. But obviously October 10th was something that even at that point, like we hadn't experienced much. If you say there was going to be a catch up, we didn't get a chance to experience that either.
Well, you gotta remember what happened October 1st. What happened on October 1st? The government shut down. So yeah, people were looking forward to the rate cut.
But my point was
time,
experiencing it second half of August as well, and like the first half of September, right? We didn't get that. We didn't get anything.
You don't normally get that though until after
you do sometimes because you said the market's forward looking. It is depending
for a cycle, but you're sitting there, you're wondering if it's going to happen for October. We've seen these one-offs before, and if you take it to the one-off we had last October, right when they cut 0.25, the reaction didn't start until afterwards, right? But then you start looking forward to the next one. Yeah,
I'm just saying that like we didn't experience any of that like euphoria whatsoever. It was almost kind of like it was a nothing burger. Like the second half of August, the first mostly through September. Now you did have like Ethereum.
I mean, we hit an all-time high October 5th.
Yeah, for Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Bitcoin moves first though, but then
but no type of euphoria feeling. It's everybody's been saying it that does the research. It's been an apathy type of year, 1,000%. We haven't had any euphoria in terms of what to feel.
Yeah, I mean, but the DXY never got under 96 either. That's euphoria mode, right? So we need Bitcoin and Ethereum to move first, and Bitcoin would have got over 150.
They did.
Yeah, but we were just entering Ethereum. Ethereum just got over its all-time high, right? We didn't see any type of push up after that because that was caused by what happened.
But that's my point. That's my point is that we didn't get to any euphoria whatsoever this year, except for the only people that probably experienced it were the really big whales that played those blue chips very well, or institutions. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a 2019, something that you've said that it's been similar to. And, lately with the data that I've collected from 2019 as well, it is very similar to that. Like even, the ISM business cycle as well. So, I mean, we'll see. The silver lining is 2026. It can be something that we maybe hope for this year.
If we can make it. Let's get into the Bitcoin price action and crypto bubbles here. Kind of see what Bitcoin's doing. It does look bullish here. Sitting, 12 o'clock on a Friday. We'll kind of see. I'd love to know your forecasts. See what's going on there though. So
yeah. Before we get into the Bitcoin price action, though, guys, help us out on the YouTube side. Smash that like, sub to the channel, turn your notifications on, all that great stuff. X, Abstract, all those places as well. Thanks for helping us out for sure. But taking a look here, it does look like we might get a Friday that gives us a little relief. You know, we don't typically get too many of those. And you can see there's, you know, this bounce back happening. So I do like to see whenever where the buy session does open back up, right? But it did look like we were going to lose that, obviously, right here, right? Whenever we had this hour candle that looked like it was, you know, wanting to close this up and have a continuation of this crazy sell session that we've been experiencing for quite some time now. But, you know, is this going to be a sustainable type of kind of recovery here, or rebound, I should say? We're going to find out, right? We haven't been in overbought territory for too long here. You know, and the MACD looks like it does want to open back up and maybe possibly get a little aggressive, right? We did wick up to 85,400, pretty much that $500 mark, $85,500 mark. And, you know, getting past that obviously would have a continuation with maybe a start of an uptrend, right? Because it looked like right here could have been that local bottom, and I hope that's the case because it did touch down at 80,500, which is absolutely crazy. I would have hated to see 70, you know, 79. Just breaking into the 70s would have been pretty depressing in my opinion. But what can you do if it does do that, right? So let's bring it back here to let's see, about 6 a.m. we can look at the support and resistance in this area. So it does look like some support is coming under here, right at the 84,500 and above in these areas too. Low volume, right? So, you know, something that can you know, push up and have some momentum and actually maybe build a strong buy session here. That would be great to see. A little bit of some positivity with price action for Bitcoin that we haven't seen quite some time, right? We get past this area and, you know, it's really dominated on the support side. So that does look like there is some, you know, positivity, right, for this upswing. So looking forward to that, you know, possibly getting back above 85, maybe trying to get to 87, something like that today would be obviously a good morale boost, right? It is showing that, you know, in those other areas above that it's just not really many, you know, sell or buy orders up here yet that we're seeing, but it is more of the sell side of up there. So, but again, very low volume. So that's something that I'm not worried about at this moment. But you know, some sideways with maybe some uptrend. That's what I'm expecting today. So hopefully that is what we get on the 4 hour. You can see it looks like we want to start to break this sucker down, right? The sell pressure session looks like, you know, it has flipped to that lighter red, whitish color on the MACD indicator here. We are showing this kind of curvature with the fast line as well. The stochastics as well looks like it's touching, the fast line at least is touching the oversold territory, that 20-point mark. So getting to this middle section is going to be very important, right? The 50-point mark to show that we are on our way to trying to get to the overbought territory. But, you know, having two candles in a row with the second one, the second 4 hour candle here being more aggressive is definitely a positive sign, right? I really like to see that. So let's see if we can make something out of this because it looks like it wants to go up. That is the feeling that I'm getting here. And if 80K is our local bottom, that would be a good thing there. So 1 hour, 4 hour looks good for us, giving some confirmation. Obviously, we want to close this out. So we need some aggressive price action really to, you know, get this 4 hour candle to be even bigger. And also having maybe another consecutive one to form here. It's not easy, you know, especially if the momentum is not on your side to get, you know, 3-4 consecutive candles, you know, because especially if we're still in that sell pressure. But we got to start somewhere, right? And we kind of had that fake out here. We've had a fake out before that as well. So we need to see a 4 or 5 4 hour candle consecutive kind of trend start to happen to feel like we can come out of this. The weekly, I already went over that. It is discouraging that, you know, this is the second weekly candle that is seemingly wanting to form underneath the 50 moving average, right? 50-week moving average here. So do I think we could get back above that? I think it's going to be really tough. You know, 2-3 days, 2.5 days to get back over 1015 from where we are right now. It's going to be really hard, but you know, I'm still trying to learn and see if we are going to be going through something different. Something that, you know, is different from previous cycles, because that's really the the hope, because if it's not, then official bear market time is what this would be indicating there. And then let's go to the daily, because the daily is something that I have been looking at for Bitcoin as well. So we do definitely need to break this down a bit more. We did eat up some of this red candle though, but we need to see this start to break down, just like the 4-hour candle. 4-hour chart, right? Time frame. We're starting to see cracks in that. We need to see this. So the 4-hour needs to obviously perform better, maybe get into a buy pressure. Then we'll start to see this crack a bit. But yeah, so we just need more time in Bitcoin to get back to 90K, and then we'll start to see the daily possibly break down. This is the one that matters the most to me, even more than the weekly and all that stuff, because we can actually feel confident if we start to come out of the sell pressure on the daily chart. Ethereum is going to be a very similar situation, but you can see here on the hourly, it's looking pretty good, even a little bit forward than a little bit faster than Bitcoin here. It seems like, all right, we have a little bit more development on the MACD as well than Bitcoin does. So kind of in that uptrend is what I'm expecting for Ethereum. 4-hour has even broken down even further as well. So it's just a little bit in front of a Bitcoin in terms of, having this rebound. So that's a good sign. Alts have been showing some strength here. And I know that myself says I love to see all diamond hands and altcoins. Yeah. That is something that we are noticing as well. They're not pulling back as hard as Bitcoin was. And Ethereum's a little bit speed running here in front of Bitcoin. So that could be something definitely to keep your eye on, to see how that further develops. The daily does need some work, just like Bitcoin's though, right? So just kind of need to break into that, start to break down this momentum here. So the daily on both of those, Bitcoin and Ethereum, until that starts to break down, unfortunately, I don't think we have a change of sustained momentum shift, but you got to start somewhere, right? And the 4 hours, the time frame that I used before that, and so the 4 hour seems to be starting to have that breakdown. So if we get an aggressive push up, then we'll probably start to see this breakdown as well, and that will be a good sign for possibly December, right? Maybe finish off the rest of November and then December and Q4. But that is Bitcoin and Ethereum for you guys. So I am seeing some positive price action. I'm not fully convinced, obviously, that we're going to change momentum. But from what I'm seeing, it does want to kind of have a swing back up after seeing those local lows. Crypto bubbles, the top 100 here looking pretty bad. You're looking at like a 95% red to 5% pull up here. But out of the ones that are pulling up, Aster is up 3%. So that's interesting. So it's back to $1.22. So yesterday it was at 113, but the day before that was at 134. So Aster's showing some strength here. Bitcoin Cash up 5.5%. Maybe all of the maxis are planning to go to Bitcoin Cash because they're not happy about JPEGs on Bitcoin. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Rain is up 8.7%. You got 2Z up 28% here. And then most of these other blue chips are really just, some of them are getting hit pretty hard. Like the privacy, Dash is down 15.1%. Starknet down 11.4%. Where's Zcash at? Zcash down 10%. Do you think that these will continually see a pullback, the privacy, or is it just kind of?
You have James Nguyen, who looks like the prophet right now. He's actually coming out and he's saying that he's shorting the hell out of Zcash. He closed all the shorts for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and now he's completely all in on shorting Zcash.
Oh yeah, I did see that. He was shorting. Yeah, he put a big position, which it's at $616, right? So. Yeah. I wonder when he put that in, right?
It looked like this morning, and he probably did it after he did it, because that's what he kind of usually does, right? He immediately after he puts in the short, he goes on X and kind of tries to make money right away. So
it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, right? Obviously, he's got some information to feel pretty confident about that. There seems to be there was a KOL. Huge KOL marketing push to talk about Zcash the past couple of days, but hey, it worked, and Zcash still sitting at $600. I wouldn't be so sure. I wouldn't be so sure if I was him that he's just gonna make a ton of money off of that. But as you can see,
the only thing I see there though is what people normally do is if they're up on something and other assets are beaten down, they usually rotate, right? So if someone's up 3, 4, 5, 10x on Zcash, you might see a rotation from Zcash into some of these other ones that are beaten down. So
Absolutely, and that seems to be some of the case because it's not just Zcash, right? Zcash Dash. It's I'm sure the other Monero is probably down as well. But outside of privacy, it looks like it's about 5 to 8% on a pullback, right? For most of these that you're seeing, it looks like it's interesting. Some of the lending and staking is pulled back a little bit further, almost to 10%. You see Morpho down 10%, Lido down almost 10%.
Yeah, they're derivatives on ETH though, and ETH's down 5%. They usually drop 10.
Yeah, Aerojone down about 8%, Hyperliquid down about 10%. So yeah, most everything is down, maybe a little bit higher, 7 to 10% on average. And then you look at the top 200, right? So I always go through the top 200. If there's coins also that you want us to look at, let us know in the chat there. You see Merlin up 7.6%, sitting at 38 cents. It's been a consistent theme with them to hold strong there. Kite is up almost 15% here. This is OG, but I think that's a zero there. Up 7%. Not track BRC20 or Bitcoin track.
No one.
This is a different.
Everyone knows what Oregon Trail is. No one knows what track TAC is.
Some of our audience, right? And so XCN up 2.7% there, and same thing with everything else here. Fartcoin had a green day actually yesterday. Is down 11.3%, along with Dog Whiff down 12.6%. So memes are taking a hit as well. But that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the alts for you. And Stan talks about Tau. Yeah, Tau, I think, let me put this in and see how Tau is looking here. Ranked 34th. We know that they're really strong there. They are having a down day, down 7.4%, but up on the hour, though, right? So Tau is something I just zoom out on. I zoom out on Tau because, like, Tau, I think is just a long-term safe play. But that's me personally.
Well, I don't think it's long-term. I think it's short-term safe play because of the halvings in 3 weeks. And I think once you see a huge, downtrend of inflation, I think you're gonna see massive up moves like right away, because a lot of these players right now, they're selling as soon as they get it, especially in this type of market. But they're gonna be getting half of the amount, right, very soon. So.
Yeah, I just said zoom out long-term play for it because I believe in it. I think it's gonna, the supply, I think is good tokenomics, and the usage and community that they're building as well. That's a community that's like, you have a lot of believers in that community, especially the builders.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's Bitcoin for AI, right? So I mean, it's easy to kind of believe that you're actually using that energy, that mind energy, for something good, and creating AI projects, stuff like that. So yeah, 100%. But let's get into today's roll call here. First is first on this show. We take the first comment, and that first comment today is the amazing Webdro. Congratulations to you, my friend. You have win number 59 on the year. Absolutely insane. Looks like you're going to be getting to 60 next week. Really, really cool. But shout out to you. His comment was cool. It was hustle was the first comment. Yes, we're going to have Jake Gallen on in about 30 minutes. Does Jake have the link?
I sent it over to him.
Okay, cool. Shout out to Moon Yacht Club, always here, man. It seems like you're here every single day now. Also, absolutely awesome Solana season. Merlin's lucky he's here. I know you're happy because I know you're a Merlin holder, and Merlin is, the anti-market right now. Whatever the market does, Merlin does the opposite. Seek Eternal is here. Shout out to you. Juicy Black Friday sale. OnePlus at says, "Oh my God, Bitcoin is truth" is here. Abstract Pengu. Chips and Dip is here. We got K99, Spindrift's Crypto. Erdrick's Grave says, "Did Agent Hustle get a McDonald's application yet?" We can ask Jake that for sure. I'll definitely remember your comment to send Jake that. Glasshopper says, "Red Friday sale." Chief Axel is here. My man, super fan always. Toast is here. Shout out to Toast. Tim Baker is here, my guy. Then we have Courtney Johnson says, "Peace, guys." Does Courtney just come in and just leave right away? He says, "Bye." I appreciate that.
I think that's his high. I think he's just
that's
saying
his high.
Yeah,
makes sense. And he says, "Peace, guys." By the dip. Super fan fan. It's weird. It's YouTube's now showing like people's full names and not just like their names here, but. He says, "FWIW, us builders are still out here. Consumer AI needs crypto rails, and consumer is uncharted territory. I believe it will be explosive, and some of us will become huge household." I agree, man. The question is there enough runway to get to next October? If, let's just say the bull market ended in October, let's just say October 10th. or October 6th, whatever it was. Can you go a full year? Can some of these builders go a full year and figure out where to get funding from? Because I don't know if most can.
Well, I think it's more than that. It's can you build a revenue generating business, right? Because yes, getting the funding can help while you're trying to build that revenue building business, but you're starting to see some of the ones that are thriving have created revenue generating business, right? So like Hustle and Emblems like that, Merlin's like that, and some other ones. But I think that should be even more of the focus. You know what I mean? Because you can't just rely on someone investing in your dream or anything like that all the time, especially when times are tight.
The problem with revenue generating businesses, though, right, is basically like it's just is there an AI that creates, you know what I mean, that creates something quicker, right? So I'm a little worried in that sense because like I can build a website now and using Caffeine AI in about 4 minutes, right? You can build a lot of these feed generating businesses just copycats, and so I think that's the only problem with that.
Well, it's not just. I think you got to think outside of the box, right? You got to think more of a business. Like I'm a business owner, and I'm trying to create this market of consumers with my business. It doesn't always have to be just focused on crypto Twitter or what even Web3 natives at the beginning, right? I think that Courtyard proved that doesn't have to be the case. They're at every card show with their marketing and team promoting that, and I bet you out of their customer base, I bet you like at least 60%, 70% are just card guys that because you can use your credit card with Privy, you can use that, right? So for them, it's like the Web3 part will continually have mass adoption more and more, but build for like your books. You want to show that your revenue's getting higher and higher, right? And I think there's just not a lot of business minded people in the space, and the ones that are doing that, they're the ones that are surviving, outside of the ones that do have big funding.
Yeah, I'm actually worried about Courtyard now that Magic Eden has taken on.
I'm not.
Probably like 60% of their business, and you have so many competitors now that are doing the exact same thing. I am, and I use the Privy. It's fucking awful. It was a terrible experience.
Well, I mean, if they're reporting $15 million a week in revenue,
they're not no more.
Well, I don't know what they are anymore. I haven't checked it like two months, 3 months
ago.
That
15 million was from Magic Eden when we checked, and that was the volume on Magic Eden, not Courtyard itself. So Courtyard only really makes their money from selling those packs, and now you can get those same packs and better quality on Magic Eden.
But if they're 60% of their consumer base is from the hobby, then they're not even like hardcore focusing on marketing to Web3 people. They're more focused on marketing towards like these hobby people that are all about trust. You know what I mean? And so that's why they show up to these shows and shake people's hands and get to know all the dealers and say, hey, you want to get rid of your inventory quickly? You can use us. We also have a marketplace. So that's what I mean is like, think outside of the box a little bit.
I'd be surprised if Magic Eden wasn't nipping at their profits, like just starting to, because Magic Eden, we're going to get into that later.
Let me give you an example. I was at the Dallas Card Show, one of the biggest shows in the US last weekend, and I asked them, do you know what Courtyard is? Everybody was like, yeah, we know what Courtyard is. It's like the crypto card business or whatever. So they already know because they have people that are in that industry that work.
How many people are using it? How many people are trusting Courtyard to hold their assets?
I mean, I didn't ask them. I was like, how many people are using it? But they all said they knew who they were, and that they're at the shows.
Yeah, that's just a tough audience to crack, in my opinion, to kind of bring them on. I think you have a better shot at going after crypto native people.
That's why you have to be one of them, and they have people that are them. You know what I mean? That work for them.
But I think Magic Eden's going to steal all the crypto native people that they have, though. They're going to have to be like 90%.
So they're going to have to take the same strategy as they did, though, right? So, and then when they do that, like they're going to have to spend money and then hire people that know the industry. There's definitely an opportunity for Magic Eden to do that. I'm not saying there isn't, but that's how you generate revenue in the space, other than doing stuff like fee-wise, swaps, those kind of things.
100%. Erdrix Graves says, on the bright side, next year OnChain Revolution can afford to give away a node monk. Yeah, right, dude. It looks like we're going to be giving away a freaking We're gonna be giving away a Billy Cat next year. Mike Bennett says, "What bull run? What up?" Stan says that VV's going to self-custody with their massive collectible collection during this upgrade. They are migrating to a new chain. Oh, that sounds interesting. Will the Emblem team initiate their migration? I doubt. So all they got to do is just, I don't know. How
What
Emblem will help with that.
collectible collection? So NFTs, and what would that look like? Because I guess they could charge fee per migration bridge or something like that.
Yeah.
Because the way it works now with fungibles is there's a liquidity fee, right? So you couldn't do that with NFTs because there's no live liquidity with those.
And all VV will have to do is because they're all in house, right? You can't like withdraw them, so they could just give you like if there is no actual migration, they just can mint, that asset over on a different chain, right? Because they hold all the assets anyway,
and burn the others. Kind of like how Frank did, right?
It's not burning because it's all internal. Because there actually is no NFC on that side. It's just like, you know what I mean? Like maybe there is. I don't think they work like NBA Top Shot.
I thought when he migrated.
No, we're talking about VV. VV's Disney's NFT platform. They're very centralized. Tom Lee is teetering on the edge of becoming a reverse indicator like Eric Trump and Jim Cramer.
That would be sad.
Ooh, I like Tom Lee. It sucks.
I mean, he was so good for so long.
I know. But then he got too deep, bro. On the bright side, we're not Tom Lee. This Thanksgiving is explaining the glitch to Grandma. That's actually pretty funny. Stan says, isn't it weird how like it's using like their whole names now and not just like we're seeing Stan 54321 and before like yesterday it just said Stan. I don't know why YouTube's doing that to us today. Yeah. It's throwing me off a little bit. Tom promised TradFi at 15 ETH. I can only imagine TradFi's outlook. Stan says, in my opinion, Putin's behind the crash and North Korea. I hope not. Superfan says, not worried. Trump will be able to print cash soon. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Stan says, what a good entry price for Zcash. What's a good entry price for Zcash? Honestly, I wouldn't buy it.
Yeah, it's up so much, right? I imagine if it pulls back to like $400 or something like that, I mean, that's a pretty significant pullback, right? You're looking at about $350, $400. The highest it got was like something, right? 750?
Yeah.
Something like that. So
780 and 750. Yeah, I would say 750 is fair. I don't know if it got up past that now. I'm thinking about it, but yeah. Tao is looking tasty, 100%, dude. Tao is something. I hope my sister doesn't check her account though. She might yell at me. But Stan says at least it's Friday at Jake's. He's always brings. Yeah, I hope Jake can bring me the sunshine. I'm feeling it today, bro. I'm feeling that storm that you were just in, dude. I feel it, bro. This is the first time I can honestly say like this is the lowest point in my 5 years of crypto. Honestly, I just feel defeated. Myself says I love to see all the diamond hands and altcoins. Higher than that says hello chat. Someone new to the ecosystem L2s. Which projects have the most promise? That's a really good question. What would you say the L2 DApp that has the most promise in your opinion?
For someone new to the ecosystem L2s DApp?
That's what it sounds like.
Polymarket.
Chain wise, obviously base, right? Base is easily number one L2. Polymarket, Polymarket would be the number one.
But that's you're not gonna have exposure to Polymarket other than just betting, and maybe they give you points or something. But something on base I think there's gonna be something on base that picks up. Jesse Pollock was talking about how they've been building this entire past 2 years for the moment that they're at, and all the tools are ready. Farcasters, Aura, they all work together, and so we'll see how that plays out.
Yep. Higher than Hat says, not one recommendation. Yeah, the chat's been quiet today. Yesterday, you guys were rampant. Today, nothing much, but it's probably our fault. We're not really engaging too much throughout the show. I was just crying out loud. But answering your mention of revenue generating business, I'm doing the AI glasses sold to normie fandoms instead of waiting for VCs. Prefer to fund my that's actually genius, honestly.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, but let's jump into news from the trenches. What is happening? Is there anything at all? Because from my understanding, it's pretty dead over there, except some Christmas stuff, right?
Yeah, so the Christmas stuff, I'll get into that in a second. So Jesse Pollock launched his creator coin called Jesse on Base yesterday. I think you had to have the Base app to actually buy it initially, but there's other areas that you can buy it. So this was something that everybody on this timeline was saying, oh no, another coin, Jesse, because he was launching kind of coins or like recommending coins on Zora, trying to get the ecosystem going, and a lot of them went to zero and stuff. Not recommending, but he was talking about them, right? And then so people were hesitant a bit on this, but it got pretty high. I think it got to like 40 million. Now it's sitting at 18, 17, 16 million dollar market cap. So this was something that was, I feel like it deserves to be in the degen trenches a bit, just because look, it's not a typical regular launch. He launched it through Base app, and it's a lot of people that are trying to flip quick and stuff like that. And I mean, but it's sustaining. I think if he launched a coin named Jesse after his first name, he has to make sure it has success, right? So that's something that came out. But they really do want to push creator coins and all these things. I don't know. Look, I mean, Pump Fun has tried to do that with very, very little success. Base has more resources than Pump Fun. Pump Fun has resources, don't get me wrong, but Base has like Farcaster, Base has Zora, Base has all these tools. So we'll see if Jesse's plan is going to work. And he's looking for people to message him, DM him, to push other content creator coins. So you can DM him for us because we're on Zora if you want. But yeah, this is something that's a part of the news for the trenches. And then going back to the degenerate side of the trenches, the even more degenerate side with Pump Fun. The only thing that's really happening over there, you had 6-7. That's obviously been kind of this trend for Gen Z and stuff. It's down to 20 million. So it went to I think it went to 40 something and then 30, and now it's at 20. So there's a lot of people, including I think Thread God said, hey, look, probably don't get in that because there's only certain cabal people in it, and if you didn't bid early, you're going to get wrecked in that. So where is an opportunity? I don't know. That's really hard. That's the hardest question to ask, right, for the trenches. And the only thing I can think of is trying to find a Christmas winner, a Christmas runner. And there's been one, and this is extremely risky for anybody listening in. So you guys know that news from the trenches is extremely risky, but there's been this guy that has launched a token called Withmas. So he was the dev of Withmas last year. It ran to 5 million, and he did a new one this year. He's trying to get to 10 million, but he's live streaming on there. And I'll share my screen. This guy is live streaming 24/7 until Christmas Day, right? And so when he hits milestones, he does crazy stuff. Yesterday, the milestone was, or the day before, the milestone was to get to, I think, 500,000. He was going to wear a Santa suit. He wears a Santa suit. He has energy. This guy has actual energy that's streaming on Pump Fun. And then the next milestone was 1 million, and it was to get a tattoo. So yesterday on live stream, he drove to the tattoo parlor and got Withmas tattooed on his forearm. So I mean, this is pretty degen, right? I don't know if you can get as degenerate as that, but it seems like he's putting a lot of effort into it. We'll see if it runs. There's other Christmas themed ones like Rismas as well, and some other ones that tried to push earlier, I want to say 2-3 weeks ago. They've kind of fallen flat, but this guy had success last year. I don't know if it's going to be successful, but he's live streaming with it, so we'll see.
Yeah, it definitely sounds interesting. It definitely sounds, somebody who loves Christmas. But I think everyone in crypto right now, I think we all hate Christmas
because we're
right
sad.
now, because it's just we don't have money to buy gifts. I remember last year, I got the big Magic Eden airdrop, and the Christmas was fun. This year, I'm just I ain't getting you shit.
Yeah, we're like the guy from what was his name from Great Expectations. We're like, can I have some more, sir? We're like the orphan for this holiday season, but hopefully that changes.
Where's some airdrops? But what else you got from News of Trenches? Anything else happening?
That's about it, man. Everything else is really just putting your money in a black hole, right? Look, that one might be as well. It's just at least maybe there could be something that has some sustainability because it is Christmas. I mean, if you can't, have any sustainability for a Christmas runner, then there's no chance for anything. I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. I do have some stuff, but it isn't insane. So Magic Eden put out this thing, minting now, Solana Game Pass Season 1, no whitelist, no mint price, unlimited fun. So you basically click this app and make sure if you guys go over here, make sure it's at Magic Eden that you're clicking on, and it should take you over to the site right here. And I purchased 2 already this morning. You can get up to 2 per wallet. Most wallets are eligible. I think it cost me around $5 to mint this to mint 2. So if you're interested, you can do this. I've gotten 2. You go up to my wallet here. You guys can see I have the 2 packs here. I don't know. Some people are saying that there's going to be something insane in one of the packs. But you do have to get lucky potentially, and you might open it up to a doodle or even a card here. But this is all on the back of their packs thing. This is what I was talking about earlier, why I think Magic Eden is going to take, 90% of the crypto native people away from Courtyard. 1, because you don't have the KYC. 2, you don't have to use stupid Privy. I personally hate Privy. I hate it. Anytime I use Privy, I always have just terrible experience with it. I was forced to use it with Artura. I was forced to use it with some other sites as well. Courtyard is another one. And every time I use it, I absolutely hate it. Maybe it's because I'm crypto native and I like to have everything in my personal wallet. I don't know, but Magic Eden lets you do that. Everything is here with your crypto native one wallet, and you're able to buy packs and stuff like that. So they're trying to do something to get people to open packs. I'm guessing, by you opening these packs, you might get a little jumpy and want to go purchase some of the
crypto punk.
What's up?
Imagine if someone got a crypto punk or something out of there. That would be crazy.
They could. I mean, right now, is there any CryptoPunks gold NFT pack?
Is
this one of them?
I doubt it.
Okay, so the top pools are V-Friends, Sappy Seals. Yeah, you're right. But they're saying a little pudgy. You can pull a little pudgy. Little pudgies are probably like 4 or 5 cool. ETH. So
yeah,
Azuki as well.
Yeah, we got one more thing for the trenches too. It's just an announcement about FlashNet, I think.
Well, Zordinals. I got the Zordinals as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Zordinals now. Obviously, you guys know about the BRC20s. We talked about that, I think, on Monday. They had what's that, $300,000 in volume 10
wow
alone. It's pretty crazy. 340 altogether. But they just launched this morning NFT collections. They got 2 collections here. Zeman seems to be the most popular. Well, maybe not. What is Shield Punks? These guys actually did more volume. So Shield Punks is now it's just like punks. I don't know, what do they value it at? $60. Damn. How many is there? It doesn't say. Okay, supply is 200. That's why. But this other supply is over 6,000. So these are kind of like, people are saying these are the node monkeys of Zcash, which they're $6. So if you want to take a shot at it, I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I wouldn't go too heavy in this. But yeah, and then the final thing is we finally got a tweet from FlashNet. Previous tweet that it was just that stupid, and I hate this because I looked at it every day for like 10 days. GTA 5 before relaunch, but they came out and they said December 1st, the launch of FlashNet, relaunch. They put out a really good article. So if you guys have the time, I would definitely read through this. They actually talk about what's been happening, what happened, and everything. I still have to dig into this a little further. I just kind of read the headlines on it and stuff like that. But the best part of this was, they basically have it ready. In my opinion, they're just not willing to work through Thanksgiving. They're kind of giving themselves a little bit of break before they launch it. I think December 1st is actually perfect. It's a Monday. It's the same day that potentially they stop quantitative tightening. I love it. I think there's a lot to look forward to with this.
Can FlashNet save our holidays? Well,
I'm just
Christmas, I should say, because that's the last thing that's there. Thanksgiving.
I keep withdrawing my Bitcoin from this, so I hope I still have Bitcoin to play with by the time they freaking launch. But
I hope they give us something for believing in
them. I did it, a little birdie. I meant to tell you this morning, a little birdie.
Well, you didn't, and I'm like annoyed that you didn't tell me. What is it? Tell everybody. Tell us all.
Let me just read the guy might hate me after this, but I'm not gonna tell you who sent it to me. But I sent him back a message to kind of give you something. I said, I hear you, I get it. But the Spark Degens are just pissed. I'm extremely bullish on the team, and I'm just surprised by the lack of posts. That's all. And that person said Degens are always ruthless. I get it. They get it too. I think, and then he put in parentheses, they will get rewarded for their patience.
Ooh.
So if you do have assets that are wrapped up in some of these Spark assets, you potentially could be rewarded.
You got to try to keep the people that came over and bridged over. You
Yeah.
don't want them to leave right away, right? So just make them happy.
100%. So, but yeah, that's news from the trenches. That is what's happening with Flashnet. I did have some other stuff here. Coinbase to buy Solana trading platform Vector.fun. Vector.fun is a decentralized exchange on the blockchain Solana. The product's users primarily trade meme coins and can follow other traders' bets and investments. As part of the acquisition, Coinbase will shut down Vector.fun mobile. If you guys do have money on Vector.fun, make sure you guys pull that out of there, and desktop trading apps, and hire the 13 employees directly to Coinbase. Coinbase plans to use Vector.fun's technology to expand the assets its users can trade on its app through decentralized exchanges. How do you feel about Vector.fun? It seemed to have a lot of potential. I remember a lot of people sending. I actually had an invite code to this, and I actually partaked a little bit.
But it never like got any momentum. I felt like, because like one of the things that they were trying to piggyback off of was Slingshot's push for runes, and it just never came to fruition. So Coinbase acquiring it, I think is going to give it the best chance to do something. Well,
they're just continuing it.
But they'll just probably use the tech and rewrap it right into their brand of some sort of product.
Yeah, they want to use the potentially the app itself to kind of potentially use it on the base app. So they're going to actually just kind of take a lot of the tools there,
integrate it into that,
and integrate it into the base app. Is kind of what I'm hearing there. But that's it. That's all the news that I have for today. I have one last question for you though. So just over a week left of November. What are we calling this month? You think we're going to be pretty bad? You think?
What do you
think?
What's the month over month? It's I wonder how much percent it's way more higher now. I'm sure.
Yeah.
What was that? CoinGlass.
You got a CoinGlass. Yeah. / today. You can kind of get an idea.
I bet before you even show that, I bet you it's like minus 23% or something.
Let's check it out. So
for November.
Bitcoin, monthly returns. Oh, it's worse.
25.
22.3.
Oh, so I said 23. I said 23.
Oh, boom. You're on. Yeah. Did we stay there? Do you think?
No. Well, we were at 18 when we last checked this last week or earlier this week. No, I think it gets better. I think we probably end up around like minus 13%, 13, 14. I mean, this is obviously throwing a dart out here, but I mean, last week, if there is some sort of rebound the last week of November, it should bring us down some here.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Let's get into our next segment here. Every Friday, we're lucky enough to have the great guys from Emblem Vault, Agent Hustle, and Migrate.fun. Huge news from Agent Hustle this week. Even bigger news from Migrate.fun. I see a lot of weird accounts saying they're moving to different places and migrating, and some I never even heard of, right? So I mean, they're probably known from the Solana community, but it was just cool to kind of see a lot of them kind of come out and kind of start saying they're migrating, and a lot of them are using. Well, I get 100% of them are using Migrate.fun, so it's really cool to kind of see that on the timeline. Really excited to talk to Jake. So without further ado, let's bring up Jake Gallen. Jake, welcome back to OnChain Revolution.
What's good, fellas? Man, happy Friday. Yeah, it's been an insane few days, maybe a whole week. I think last night was the first time I slept over a few hours. So it's been a lot of edge cases in this pay AI migration, but it's putting us in a really good position for the Pump Fund group. And now it's forming to be probably another final group at the end of the month after that one.
Nice. That's awesome. I mean, you guys are just really kind of trucking along here. And those edge cases too, those are beneficial, right? They're highly beneficial because they're a pain in the ass right now, but it's you'll know how to handle that situation when it comes around again, right? So awesome. Yeah, obviously Bitcoin's price didn't start off with a great Friday, but starting to turn around here a bit. Let's kind of kick things off a little bit with the Migrate.fun. You guys just rolled, finished up your second cohort. Do you guys feel like you will always have like that next cohort ready? Because it seems like that's you have a pipeline kind of building now.
I think until we're ready to push it as a public offering to where anyone could come in and set up their own migration. The groups are great for a handful of reasons. And with Pay AI migration, there's a handful of good examples. So when you do a group, it becomes a giant attention event. It's exciting for the teams participating. It's exciting for the ecosystem that they're migrating to. On a broader scale, it reaches a lot more users because it's generally not like 1 + 1 = 2, where you get just the token holders from each migrating group and the platforms. You get potential speculators and investors and people who are looking for these groups to come through Migrate Fund to find projects that they had never discovered. And on the even broader scale, it starts to reach the platforms that are hard to get in touch with, exchanges, founders of different protocols, because to be completely fair, these large migrations like Pay AI start to break things, right? Because a lot of when you're basically sending a chart to zero that has, tens of thousands of holders, shit starts breaking in the background. And what I've learned is the best way to get in touch with something is to break their platform, essentially, right? Or break like the user base. Because we have tried to reach out to all these exchanges, all these platforms. A lot of times you just get left on red or they don't respond, right? And so the only way to get in touch with them is to force them to talk to you. Might not be like, it may be more of like a guerrilla type networking, but migrations have a lot of interest and we want to work with all these platforms, but whether they don't want to work with us because they feel tribalistic, because maybe they're a competitor or they think we're taking users away or whatever the case is, I don't think migrations are going to stop anytime soon. And a lot of times I do have to give credit to, places like OKX and Moonshot, who have been, and BitGet, who've been working with us, and we weren't aware of their internal architecture, right? Like some of these platforms, like those 2 or 3, they're these like centralized dexes, I guess is the best way to describe them. And so they offer unique situations to where you have to airdrop the holders, and it's not just like a centralized exchange type model. And then there's kind of 2 other edge cases that have surfaced recently. One of them is users who had Pay AI tokens in a Jupiter smart contract because they were doing limit orders and things like that. As well as there's some situations with Meteor of people having LP tokens in Meteor. That seems to be the biggest one so far. And so, when that stuff breaks, or you find in like the Jupiter limit order situation, 10 to 20 users who are using this, you realize that that's an attention point that has to get solved. And so it does introduce a lot of complexities. And, the simple solution is to have some of these platforms work with you, to put banners up and different types of labelings. But unfortunately, what I'm finding out is some of these platforms do not want to work with us and they want to make it very difficult. So, we try to do our best to provide as much, and we're going to make a lot of adjustments. So for example, I put this out this morning with the OKX Dex team, we're now just going to basically provide a list to them of all of our migration groups, of all of the people who are migrating, and then they can deduce from there which users are going to be affected across which platforms. But we weren't aware that this was a situation up until this recent Pay AI migration. And I'm assuming once we do this pump fund migration group with 20 plus teams, that there's probably going to be some new things that quote unquote break on the back end that we're going to have to solve. But overall, awesome opportunity, and really excited for December. I do think that is going to be the breakout month for the platform.
Yeah, it sounds frustrating, right? So you're reaching out to these teams and they're just basically telling you, like, not telling you anything. They're just kind of just not responding and stuff like that. And when you do get a hold of them, I guess they're just not helping at all. Like, what is the issue, and like how can they solve that?
Yeah, part of it is, I think, just a lack of education or interest.
Okay.
So from the centralized exchange perspective, this is different from the on-chain, right? So this Pay AI migration, we had 4 or 5 exchanges actually participate in the migration. Like, they took the tokens from the cold wallet, They transferred it, put it through the platform on chain, and then just grab the tokens on the other side. That is like introducing a completely new behavior that exchanges do not do, right? So you have to basically reshape the narrative. And what we're learning is that most of these exchanges, they've all, at the beginning, we're all requesting relisting fees. Now none of them are, right? Because we've built a relationship with them that, hey, this is a legitimate product that literally, 50 teams are going to have used by the end of the year. And so for them, if they charge a relisting fee, it's bad reputation. If they delist it, then they're losing out on business. I think they're also starting to come to terms that migrations are bullish because it re-energizes the community and it reactivates a lot of trading. I mean, if you just look at the Pay AI chart, it's pretty much up and to the right since the migration completed, right? And millions of dollars of trading volume. So a lot of these exchanges are eager to get it live and trading, right? Because that's fees for them, especially in a market that's down right now. On the other side of this, so I actually very appreciative of all the exchanges. They've all, over the last month or so, really started coming to terms with working with us, and very grateful for that. It's been very tiresome. That's probably the most exhausting part of this, but we are getting to near the end of it. On the other side of it, you have to work with the on-chain protocols, right? The pumps, the radiums, the bonks, the meteoras, the Jupiters, right? You have to get in contact with these people. You do run up against some egos, unfortunately, in that situation, but rightfully so, because there's a three-headed kind of Goliath, right? A battle that's happening between Jupiter and Meteora, who's the same team, and Moonshot, right? They're all kind of owned by Jupiter. You have Pump Fund and PumpSwap, right? It's a vertically owned protocol. And then you have Radium and Bonk Fund, where Bonk is built on top of Radium's launch lab. And all three of these cohorts are competitors, right? And what Migrate Fund does, it's basically inserted itself into the middle of this triangle, and it can bring business to these teams, could also take business away, right? And so we try to remain as a neutral third party because our focus is, hey, we just want to help the users. We don't do bidding on behalf of these platforms. So far, with the Bonk Fund group that we did, and then the Pump Fund group, they brought all the business to us. We didn't go out and reach out to people, right? So we respect the platforms, and when they bring in users, we ensure that they migrate to their platform. There are some situations where a team will bring in a user, and then after we have the discussion, the team decides they want to do something else. It's not something that we lead with, but sometimes that does result in those situations. And obviously, the platforms have to kind of protect themselves from this, but as it appears, and this is something that we said before we launched the platform, is that a neutral third-party migration platform is probably the inevitability, because as we've seen with Believe, who said that they were going to do migration platform, they did it completely wrong and have kind of lost faith. The Heavendex team said that they were going to do migration platform. It seems like they've scrapped that idea. So we're kind of really the last ones. And Slurf had a migration platform that they did for themselves. Maybe they introduce it with their launchpad down the road, but we do have a good relationship with them. But as we discussed on here at the show, literally months ago, a native migration tool to a launchpad, the only way they can compete with us is if they offer incentives, no fees, they pay users to migrate over. And what Radium and Bonk and Pump Fund have realized is that it's much easier to work with us than compete with us, because not only do they have to build out the architecture and figure out all of these edge cases, which is very tiresome, but then they have to incentivize the users to come over, right? So it's a good position for us to be in, and we're just going to continue figuring out all these edge cases until then. And it's very exciting. We're getting a lot of interesting people reaching out, and I think this only continues to scale. And once the platform is open to the public in Q1 next year, I think we'll really start to see some of the real opportunities and interest in creative ways that people will utilize it.
Yeah, no, I think that you guys put yourself in a great position, because the people that tried to attempt this I think they probably got stonewalled or to a situation to where it was just so tedious, like working with the centralized exchanges and stuff. They're like, oh my God. So you really can just dominate this market because they don't want to deal with the headache, right? Especially if their first thing isn't this. Their first thing is a launch pad, right? That's where they make their bread and butter from. So I think that Migrate.fund's in a great position, and just I mean, it sucks right now because you guys are having to figure out these edge cases and stuff, but it'll be worth it in the end. And you guys know that. But we had an interesting question because from Stan, you know, one of the biggest fans of you guys, Stan the man. He was talking about a possibility of you guys, you know, migrating collectibles and NFTs, and I was just like, well, that wouldn't work because there's no living liquidity, right? But I guess you could take the approach of doing a fee per item. I mean, how would that look like? Could you guys even offer that service, or are you staying away from that?
Well, we've done migration for Emblem Vault when we migrated Emblem Legacy, which had 50,000 assets across 7 or 8 different blockchains and 400.
Those were official migrations, not just bridging to like for Gandhi or something. They were complete.
That was official migration. Yeah, we had to upgrade each vault. It took us almost 2 years to complete. So very, very difficult to do. NFTs have infinitely more complexities because there's a whole metadata component to all the NFTs that makes it very tough to do, because now you have to interact with different explorers and different APIs to get the right type of data. NFT holders in the culture is a much different breed, but also there's no liquidity. So if I was a project on, well, the interesting component is if you're going to migrate an NFT, I think it comes down to the community and culture. You're not going to migrate a CryptoPunk because it has provenance, right? Like the destruction of that destroys the entire value. Whereas some NFTs, like gaming assets, it doesn't matter if you burn the NFT and mint a new one, because it's generally like a low value item. But the high value items do not get migrated because of the provenance. So what you do is you just use Emblem Vault to bridge it there, right? That's the whole thesis. That's why it works with Bitcoin NFTs so well. It'll work with a lot of these historical ones. It'll work with CryptoPunks, but people have to trust Emblem. And it's crazy, even still 10 years later, that the tribalism in NFTs prevents people from moving them across chain, or that they just don't trust Emblem yet. But as we know, it's an inevitability, and we'll keep saying this as we've been saying it for years, that this is where NFTs are going, is moving cross-chain. We see it in Bitcoin, where runes are all cross-chain now, but ordinals are not, which is kind of weird. But we're seeing that be reflected in the price of ordinals. So whenever the ordinal community decides that they want to move cross-chain, you know, they could get the type of volume that Rare Pepe has seen historically, and the type of volume that's been seen on you know, Bitcoin punks and stuff in those early days. One day they'll come around to it, and we'll be here to help them. But until then, you know, we move forward with it. And that's why Migrate Fund has been really successful, as well as Agent Hustle. One other kind of final thing with Migrate Fund, wallet connections was something that was a big issue. With this Pay AI migration, has a very, very heavy Asia user base. And so with that, I've learned that the Asian communities use a wide variety of wallets. Some of them I've literally never even heard of, whereas US crypto users tend to stick to just MetaMask or Phantom. But in Asia, it's not. They're typically using the exchange wallets that are offered: the OKX wallet, Binance wallet, Jupiter wallet, Gate wallet, so on and so forth. So it is kind of interesting now, being in the middle of this culture, and it positive to the Chinese community that we've been interacting with. They actually seem to be a very big fan of the Migrate Fund platform. Very, very positive sentiment from all of them, and seeing it, even getting some of my interviews about Migrate Fund being turned into Chinese and being posted online. I've seen a few of these already. And so, you know, we're going to continue to go where the demand is. Obviously, this can be expanded to BNB for memes if they want to migrate. Obviously, this can be expanded to Base for things like Clinker and Virtuals and Aerodrome when they have their launchpad, and whatever other ones kind of pop up. We got to go where the demand is. But yeah, really exciting time to be on the Migrate Fund platform. And when the Pump Fund group launches here in the next few weeks, I think we're going to put out some announcements next week on dates. But it's looking like it'll probably be like the first or second week of December, depending on the exchanges and all these different platforms that we have to reach out to. We actually gave all of the teams that want to migrate with us a deadline of today to make an announcement. There are maybe one or two larger teams that haven't announced yet that need the weekend, but we've put the final in. Pump has brought all of their inquiries about migration to us, and it's time to kind of move forward. A lot of the people are getting really anxious of getting this done, and so are we. But the Pay AI migration has put us in a good position now because we're in contact with like 90% of the exchanges, or the token holders are in the process of opening up support tickets with these exchanges to then get in touch with us afterwards. And we do have this new mechanism with Pump Fund where it's actually going through the bonding curve itself. So it's going to be kind of interesting once that is live. And I think once that is completed, we'll probably see another rush of people who want to migrate. There's a lot of people who are kind of reached out and said that they're on the fence and they're going to wait for this group. Same thing with the Bonk Fund one. A lot of people watching the Bonk Fund migrations waiting who then ended up reaching out. And in this upcoming group, we have, I think, 18 public announcements. So it'll be our largest. There's another 5 or 6 that are supposed to announce. And then there's a handful of teams that have opted to do another group probably at the end of the year to kind of a wide variety of areas. So the teams that you've seen that you mentioned in the beginning, I think we have like 12 or 13 Believe app migrations. So a lot of them moving over, smaller liquidity. So like from a liquidity standpoint, a lot of the bigger projects that we were supposed to migrate ended up not moving forward, or there was some situation where they were held up by exchanges or market makers or bureaucracy or kind of whatever it is that will probably undergo their migration in later December or in Q1 of next year. But excited. The Believe app teams, they're all eager and excited, right? They're ready to get off Believe, and this is no discredit to Believe. I think, maybe they might be fine in the long term, but for us, it's about helping users get to where they want to be. Pump is going full in on ICM, and how they are going to market Migrate Fund, I think, is still to be determined. That is kind of one unique situation we run into, is because we do offer business for these launch pads, but also can take business away. They seem to be somewhat hesitant to specifically note Migrate Fund or even kind of follow us, to be honest. But they are bringing us the business, and that's really all that matters is getting the users where they want to go.
Yeah, 100%. And at the end of the day, you guys are just a third-party service. It's like these cities, it's like getting mad at the moving company because you're moving taxpayers out your city, right? It's just like, well, why don't you just actually get mad at the actual person that's actually moving? Or this is better, provide a better ecosystem or better rewards to keep those people. Right? Have you seen something like that? Yeah. Have you seen some of these exchanges come back to these builders that are thinking, saying, hey, we'll give you, this much to stay or something like that?
The Bonk Fund and Radium, that was kind of a combination of Pump Fund. They don't really tell us their internal strategies, probably for the better because we're so early in the relationship. They just they just bring us business. They answer technical questions. I do have to give a shout out to the business development people, Rain from Pump Fund, SKG from Bonk, and MST from Radium. They've all been awesome. Those are kind of our reps from each platform, and they've been great help and assistance. They're really good people. When it comes to like the CEOs and stuff, they're in the chats, but they're somewhat less responsive. Obviously, they have like an entire multi-billion-dollar company to operate, so rightfully so. But I will say this, a lot of I've seen some wild requests from some of these teams migrating, and not in a good way, where they're kind of trying to pin these launch pads against each other to get better requests. I've seen people ask for asking the platforms to buy into their ICO. demanding platforms to invest equity into their company, demanding exchanges to offer specific types of social support, getting on private calls and stuff like that. And, you know, I know a lot of these teams are eager, but I have seen some very, I guess you would say, aggressive negotiations. And so, you know, we'll kind of see where it goes from there. On the other side of this, there is actually one thing that I do want to bring up that happened this week was this kitty situation. You know, from the platform's perspective, it's unfortunate that this happened, but to kind of put it out there, and we explained it on our show as well. So in the first migration group, we had 14 teams migrate to BonkFun and Radium. 11 of them went to BonkFun, and of that, of those 14 teams, 5 teams chose a 100% penalty. So what that means is that if you miss the migration, you're fucked. You don't get anything, right? You're done. The team then has the tokens. After the migration completed, the pushback from those communities was so severe that all 5 teams ended up walking back that, and they wanted to do manual redemptions, right? Because from the Migrate Fund platform, if you choose 100% penalty and it runs end to end, the platform's done. There's no like whitelist. There's no centralized model. It's an entirely on-chain program. There's no like, hey, we could change this and do this. We audited it specifically to be as secure and decentralized as possible so that none of the liquidity gets siphoned in different types of ways, right? So there's no APIs. It's all, you can interact with it on chain. And so once the migration was over, we were getting severe requests and demands every week from these teams to release the tokens early before the 90-day claim period. You know, the requests were a variety. A lot of them were, some teams had hundreds or 200 people reaching out, so they just wanted to get the redemptions over with. Some teams said that they had like hired KOLs to do marketing. Some of the token they had promised to other people on the back end. Obviously, we're not included in the strategy of what these teams are doing, right? So we had told them that once we had built the exchange withdraw function, which is what we've been utilizing for Pay AI because they had 15 exchanges listings. Whereas the first migration group, there were no exchange listings or no major ones, at least. And so we had finished the exchange withdrawal tool. It took us a long time to build. It was very complicated alongside the pump fund integration. We had notified all 5 teams on Tuesday that we were, I think it was Tuesday, maybe it was Monday. Maybe it was Monday, that we were nearly finished with the withdraw function and that we were going to release the tokens, right? Obviously, we have to then go through the process itself. So when we would release the tokens, the Kitty team, within literally a few minutes, dumped the entire thing on their community. It was like 20% of the supply. And from there, you know, it's unfortunate. The tokens are outside of the Migrate Fund platform. So it's not something that, you know, we have control of in this situation. The Kitty team was upset that we had released the tokens early, but we had released it to 5 teams, as well as Kitty community members, Kitty moderations. 5 different Kitty team members were asking for these, like literally every week. The other 5 teams, other 4 teams, no issues. The Kitty team then turned around and, you know, they think the platform's a scam. They think like we were coordinating with the team to rug the community. I don't know why we would blow up the platform for $40,000. It seems, you know, ludicrous to even think that. I had received some death threats from some of their community members. They still continue to this day to post scamming under some of the links. You know, it's unfortunate. There's like some internal warfare there, which we didn't even know, that apparently the Kitty team that we had talked with wasn't the original CTO team. They were like the CTO of the CTO team. And they're claiming that the Kitty team had done a hostile migration takeover, even though Kitty had 70% turnout. And then they're coming us to say that they were forced to migrate, I guess, because of the demand. I don't really know. You know, we don't sit in these chats and kind of monitor. We just talk with the teams, and they were showing up on our spaces. They had a 70% migration turnout. We were like, oh, I guess this is it. And so, you know, that's a unique situation. What I'm coming to find out is that meme coin migrations generally have a lot more issues and complications with it than a utility token migration. And it's because meme coins, right, are very social. And so it's something we're going to take into consideration. We're also going to take into consideration and thinking through ways to release the unclaimed tokens to the teams in a way that is less impactful than just taking over the entire supply. Obviously, it's something that, right, maybe it's like a slow release over time of those
like a vested type of schedule or something.
Yeah. So, you know, there's some options there. Obviously, we have to go step by step with all of the different things that happen. And again, this just introduces the hundreds of different edge cases and situations to a migration platform, which I think makes the moat infinitely more difficult to build something and replicate it of this scale and size. So benefit for us, obviously we have to take in a lot of pain, and, you know, you have to have tough skin, talking with hundreds of different scammers every day of people trying to manipulate us in different types of ways. And so, you know, we move forward. That's something that we are considering because of that kitty situation that had happened, as well as just recently with the OKX and Moonshot and BitGet having these kind of like centralized dexes, as well as Meteora, who had brought up that their users with PayAI were impacted because they weren't aware of the migration. So it's something to take and consider is if somebody is LPing, is it our responsibility to notify them about a token that they're actively participating in the on-chain market, right? Obviously, you don't want any user impacted, but it is something that a lot of people have reached out to us, maybe like 20 people so far. So it's something that we're just going to have to review and make a decision on to figure out what the scale is. But you have to go one by one. And so in these situations, right, like the face value is you would like, you know, Meteor and these dexes to put a banner to say, hey, this token's migrating, so people could be, you know, aware. Unfortunately, what we're coming to find out is some of these AMMs or I guess you call small LPs are not willing to work with us, and they want to social signal and be heroes, which is okay. So we're going to try to do our best to get everything appropriated in the right way to ensure that all users are protected. But the thing is, you have to go through these migrations to figure out these pain points. And then when you find out the pain point, you have to go to the team to find a solution. And then you have to understand, is the team willing to work with you? What are the proper solutions and kind of what can be done? So for over the last 2 weeks, we found about 4 or 5 major ones that I had addressed, and that we're going to try to get cleaned up for December.
Do you think it'll be possible, or even, like, I'm not sure how much it would even cost, but to airdrop every wallet holder like an NFT that says, hey, you know, this is happening type of thing? Would that be even, would the cost basis be there, or the time be worth it?
So the issue is with the Solana architecture itself. And what I mean by this is that if with Solana, you have to pay something called rent. This doesn't exist on Ethereum. And you have to pay Solana to send a token to a wallet that hasn't existed. So if you're migrating, creating a new token, you have to pay rent for each of these accounts, and the cost can be anywhere from 0.002 Sol up to 0.01 Sol per. So when we just did this airdrop of PayAI to 200 accounts on OKX Dex, it costs almost 1 Sol to do.
Oh my God.
Right. So it gets very, very expensive. And for a lot of these migrations that only have, 100,000 in liquidity, you're essentially going to cut 10-20% into, the liquidity that they're doing. So this is why the claim process is there. If we could just airdrop everyone, it'd make it significantly easy. But unfortunately, we don't have, venture capital to fund these open accounts. Like Phantom, for example, just pays for all of these on the back end. for all of these accounts. So most users don't realize that that is the situation. So doing airdrops can be quite expensive once you start getting over 1,000 holders, where some of these migrations have 25,000 holders. So it just becomes non-economical or viable to do.
Yeah, makes sense for sure. So you guys are planning to do a December, launch. It does seem like I'm seeing a lot of people. You said 18 have already said it, but it was weird. It was just like, because I would see them tagging, Migrate.fun, and then Migrate.fun would repost it. So it was really cool to kind of see. It was almost like every day this week I saw a new one. So do you have any information of when that's potentially going live?
Yeah, so we basically gave everyone a deadline of today to make these announcements. There's a few larger projects that we're running into issues, whether it's their internal deliberations or there's larger exchanges who we haven't worked with previously, who's taking a little bit longer in the conversation or whatever, but we just have to move forward on this. So basically the next steps is that once we have the list finalized, we then have to go to all of these exchanges that are involved. The only way we know which exchanges to go to is if we have the list finalized, right? So it's like a step-by-step thing. Then we have to go to now these new introductions to Moonshot, to OKXDEX, to BitGet, to Binance Alpha, to all these places that are centralized, decentralized exchanges, to then provide lists and say, hey, these are the ones migrating. Can you go through your procedure? Then they have to say, okay, well, this is what we can do. This is what we can't do, right? Then we have to market it as well. And then we have to onboard the teams to the migration itself. So there's a lot of variables to it. And I know a lot of these teams are very eager to go. We get threats, actually, a lot of teams saying, hey, this is taking too long. We're going to pull out. And unfortunately, we just have to say, okay, pull out. And that's your decision. But we have all of these teams together for this attention event to benefit everyone. So you just have to be somewhat patient for it to do. If you want to pull out, then, that is what it is. But, we're building a completely new industry here with migrations. And so it feels like we're about 70% of the way there to get this whole thing standardized across the board, to have all the toolings to make it just completely automated. But we're not just there yet. So, we're appreciative of it. I would say, the first or second week of December is probably when these will go. It's really dependent on how next week goes, honestly. Like, that's really kind of the final thing. If all of these exchanges and platforms will work with us and they'll provide and they're quite responsive, then we can do this quickly. We'll probably be able to do it in the first week of December. If they take a lot longer, or the teams that are migrating provide issues to us, right, threats or whatever, then maybe it's the second week of December. But we're moving. We put the deadline here on Friday because we just have to move forward. Can't wait on people anymore. And so, probably first or second week of December.
Yeah. And you guys are starting to get the hang of it, right? Obviously, you do have edge cases that can prolong a cohort, but you've knocked 2 out already since you guys started, right? So I think that's very, very impressive. And I think, for meme could be a big market for you guys. You guys are opening up to BSC in other ways. And I think that's a good transition here to Hustle and having that BSC integration. How big do you think that is? And what does that look like so far?
I think it could be big. The market is down. So, we're a little bit late to the integration for people trenching, but just being established there is really good. We were in contact with the BNB chain, who was going to help co-market it with us, and then they pulled out last second and decided they weren't going to, right? So that was a little bit of a blow to the publicity of it. But this seems to be a common theme, actually, with a lot of not just, blockchain foundations, associations and such. That's why we're appreciative of the Hedera Foundation, who's continued to support us, because that was the whole point, is you go build to these places to have the chain support you, to then promote it to the users. It's a similar situation, actually, with like the teams migrating with us who want to go to, the launch pads, right? They want the social support. We understand it. We're the new kids on the block. And so, we don't have the trust or the we don't have the trust of a lot of these different areas of the communities. And also, Adam and I have somewhat decent sized accounts, but it's not these like gigantic KOL influencers who have, hundreds of thousands of followers to where you just approach these people and they already know you. We're still relatively unknown across the board. So we're just going to continue to build and add features. Hustle's getting to a point now where I think in 2026, you're going to see some very, very incredible things that do not exist anywhere else. We added BNB. We're experimenting with ETH conditional trading. We're going to add ETH conditionals to Binance, Airbnb as well. We have, we are currently working on Polygon integration with Polymarket. We've actually started working on cross-chain swaps as well. So being able to swap any token within the platform. So any BNB token for any Solana token, any Hedera token for any ETH mainnet token, so on and so forth. And then we're going to be adding or focusing a lot on improving the experience of the platform itself. So we'd like to add more social logins. We'd like to add Apple Pay and Google or Coinbase Commerce and Cash App and a lot of these to make it very kind of approachable and easy to use for anybody, even if you have no platform. And also we would like to add some unique trading experiences because it is a trading terminal. So there are some features there that we'd like to add to really kind of improve the experience. As well as we have a bunch of other ideas that can take Hustle in an interoperable way. We should have an announcement maybe that in December of some enterprise development resources for all three of our products that'll allow any builder to build on top of all three products in a very approachable way. So we're really kind of getting the house in order here for a really insane 2026. As I was on the show like a month and a half ago saying that I thought the market was going to just be choppy until Christmas. Still think that's going to be the situation. So we have essentially another 4 weeks or so to really kind of get a lot of this in order before the market picks back up. Because once the market picks back up, then it's a lot harder to focus on some of the more mundane development things, right? Like developer tooling and things like that, because the focus is only on the token when price goes up, right? And so you got to do things for the token, which we'd like to add to Hustle. We have a lot of different ideas on how to go about it. So we're getting kind of the boring stuff out of the way now so that when the market resumes up, we're able to offer updates and features that are more applicable to that type of market dynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, I wanted to also ask this real quick, Shizia. Sorry. What do you guys? How do you determine if you're going to add something like a chain on, right? Because Monad's coming up on Monday, right? And it's EVM. Let's say that it becomes popular and liquidity gets concentrated there. Do you guys look at that? Like, is it sustainable? Is it too new? Same thing with Spark because they're relaunching in December. That's a different tech stack. So let's focus on like something like Monad. It's EVM. How would you determine if it gets thrown on like quickly or next quarter? What do you guys go through?
So now that we have EVM live, it'd only take a week to really get something live if we were just going down the template of deposits, sends, swaps, right? And then the analytics itself will take like a few days, as well as the conditional engine that's for it. I think it's really just evaluating where the market is at the time, if there really is Monad interest there. I think Monad's actually like a move VM system, but maybe it's EVM compatible or EVM parallelized or whatever the situation is. But there's a lot of other chains, right? There's Base, there's Monad, there's Avalanche, there's Hype EVM, there's Abstract is a good option. So there's a Bitcoin, obviously, with some of that ecosystem. And then obviously we want to merge Emblem into it. And I think you're going to see a lot more crossover between Emblem and Hustle in quarter one of next year. But really, you just want to go wherever the demand is at the time. And honestly, whatever our users wanted. Our subscribers wanted BNB, so we added BNB. Our users wanted Polymarket, so we're adding Polymarket, right? So really just comes down to building for your power users. Whatever they want is what we'll give them.
Yeah, that's actually a great question because I was thinking about that too. You know, if you do see, you know, even hey, like have Monad, you know, if you're somebody who wants to have Monad, reach out to this team, right? Do some type of cross marketing. I'm sure you guys, I mean, if it's that easy, I'm sure you guys would do that. So that's for every chain, right? So if there's any chain out there that wants to enter Agent Hustle, all they got to do is reach out. Correct?
Yeah. You know, Stacks community we've talked with a lot. We have a lot of Stacks users, so that's obviously something that we would like to add to support the power users. That's just the way that we build. Sui is another option. I think that has like a thriving ecosystem. I was actually like looking through the list the other day. But yeah, you know, we'll see. Hustle is going to there's a lot of other things that we'd like for Hustle as well. And we'll have some announcements in December for that. But until then, the market is rough, right? The sentiment is down, liquidity is low. I still think it comes back. I don't think this is like a bear market. This is just like a sell-off period, and continue up in holidays, maybe to January. But yeah, I think after Christmas, when you get that like period where everyone's not doing anything.
Is it different than anything you've experienced? You have more experience than the average person in the space, though. You were here in 2017, 2021. I mean, for me, it feels completely different, like post-halving year. What about you?
Feels like 2017, to be honest. 2017, I think, had like 6 or 7 30% declines in Bitcoin. I think this is currently a 30% decline. The only difference here is that all the altcoins get completely obliterated every time that Bitcoin goes down now, because there's so much more liquidity in the market, right? So because of that, most of that liquidity is siphoned out of altcoins. And but no, it feels the same. It doesn't feel any different to me. Everyone keeps saying it's different, but I don't think it is.
We're missing the euphoria, though. Do you think you're not noticing it as much because you're CEO now of a company, so you're in the day, you know, day in and day out of the operations?
I still see the timeline. You know, I'm not trading really anymore, and building, but you still talk with the builders, you still see the things on the timeline, you still see where the interest and attention is. I think where a lot of the frustration comes from, or disdain, is actually a lot of the new entrants themselves, the people who came in for meme coins, because they all came to do, you know, what was promised to them of, you know, 10,000 X's in a few days. Like that's gone. Like the meme coins are done. Like they'll still be around. And I'd posted this like after the Trump thing. It's like, you know, meme coins are now an official category and they'll always be around, just like with NFTs. But that euphoric type pumps has been gone for almost the entire year now at this point. So meme coins are going to have to evolve. I think this is what Pump is trying to do: evolve from meme coins to creator coins to ICM, and figure out kind of where the next era of that is. It's just like, you know, agents will probably be the next meme coins, in my opinion. That's why we built Agent Hustle. And you're going to see some wild stuff when we go into the intelligence cycle. I think it will be combined with the interoperability cycle as well. And yeah, this to me, it doesn't feel any different, to be honest. Obviously, the scale is much larger. There's a lot more liquidity. There's a lot more users now. There's a lot more ecosystems. But if you just simply look at Bitcoin, it feels pretty similar. Obviously, a lot of the euphoria is actually off-chain now, right? It's moved to ETFs, to DATs, to all these other traditional financial products, and the institutions are hyped for crypto, right? Like all the boomers love crypto now, but a lot of the on-chain natives who just got completely wrecked. They're tired. There's scammers everywhere, right? There's liquidity drains. The KOLs are beating them down, right? So the sentiment on-chain feels quite low because of all of the stuff that's happened over the last, you know, few years. It's been a crazy bull market, but I think this does continue. When you look at FTX, when the FTX happened and all the market makers and everyone got wiped out, it took like 8 to 12 weeks, I think, for that to resume. I think we're like 6 or 7 weeks into from 1010, right? It's like 6 or 7 weeks. So really you got like a month left. That was like my whole thesis. It's like, okay, it's like 2.5, 3 months from when 1010 to Christmas. So after Christmas, you probably see the market come back.
Yeah, and Tom Lee actually did mention that too when he was interviewed. About 8 weeks is what it took for the FTX recovery. But let's talk about someone that played 2021 and they were new to that market and they played it incorrectly because they didn't realize it was a 4-year casino, right? And then they were like prepped for this year, and they're just like, "What the hell? I studied for the test. Now I'm getting like Fs every week. I try to,
Well,
make
they
money."
changed the questions. They changed the questions that you weren't prepared for it, right?
Yeah, I also think the
They didn't give you the questions, so what do you mean?
Well, that's the thing. It's almost like you had a cheat sheet, right? You're just looking last year, and you're like, I know all the answers.
Yeah, in 2017 it was pretty systematic. It would be like Bitcoin pumps, ETH pumps, and then all of the ICOs pump, right?
Yeah,
in 2021 it was. In 2021 it was like Bitcoin pumps, ETH pumps, NFTs pump, right? So it was a little bit different. This time around, I think it's because there's so many new chains. And there's so many options that it's not like Bitcoin pump, ETH pumps. It's now like if ETH pumps, then everything in ETH pumps. But ETH can pump outside of Bitcoin, right? And when Bitcoin pumps, the DATs pump, right? Because Bitcoin is now institutionalized, right? So you got to think of it. And then it's like when Solana pumps, the launch pads and everything in that ecosystem pumps, right? And so in this next cycle, it'll probably be like, I don't know, what agents or something like that, right? Or interoperability, right? It's you got to connect all of these things together. That's why I'm so bullish on Emblem and Hustle and Migrate, right? That's all intelligence and interoperability products, and it's proving to be right. So I think it's if you look at last cycle when it ended, right? The FTX sell off, everyone got wiped out. Ordinals popped up literally 2 months later.
2023, yeah,
January, right? And that was really the first thing that sent us into the new cycle, right? So it'll be something similar here where there's going to be something new that takes off. Could be agents again. Could be, I don't really know, to be honest. Could be this interoperability stuff that everyone's kind of focused on. It could be it could be ICM, ICO 2.0 is definitely happening. That's definitely coming. Coinbase would not be doing the thing with Monad if it wasn't going to be the case. We just saw Coinbase today acquired Tensor, right, with Vector. So they got 2 products in one because they're going all in on Solana. I think Solana continues to dominate apps. That was actually my 2025 prediction, was that Solana price would be underwhelming, but they would continue to dominate apps. And that's exactly the case that's happened.
Well, I compared the ICOs from 2017 because I was more in the fungibles last cycle than NFTs, but NFTs definitely had their huge boom. But I compared the ICOs from my experience more to like the fungibles that ran up Wonderland, Ohm, Shiba Inu came out of last cycle. And so that's what I think, that euphoria from the fungibles, it just hasn't hit. At that let down the risk curve, because ICOs did go pretty far down the risk curve. You were talking about WorldCoin, all these just bull crap that people were making up. And I think you were definitely more into the NFTs, right? Than
I was all last cycle. I was pretty much only NFTs. I did do DeFi and stuff like that. Like I participated in DeFi Summer and Yams and Compound and all the other fucking scams.
The Ponzi that seems so like
all the yield farming stuff, right? It kind of all blew up after Yams had happened, where it was like you're taking the LP tokens and staking them again, and it was like you couldn't even get out. You couldn't even get out because like when Yams blew up, the ETH gas fees was like $1,000 to pull out, right? Kind of thing. But you bring up a good point, which we talk about this at Emblem a lot, and just being, a former kind of historical NFT guy, I've gone through the history of crypto. Whatever the main thing is, one cycle, it popped up previously, it just wasn't popular, right? Like this was meme coins, but meme coins popped up in 2021 with Shiba, but the meme coins really started in 2014, right? So it took a few cycles for it to really get ready. If you think about NFTs, the first NFTs, right? You could say Namecoin, then Count and Namecoin in 2011. And then that was like the first altcoin cycle. And then obviously on Counterparty during the ICOs thing with Kitty and also with the Crypto Kitties, and then really took off right in 2021. So you're probably going to say, you know, what took off in 2017 or what was first popular in 2017, that'll be probably the main bull in this 2025 cycle or 2026 cycle. And you think about it, and it's probably ICOs, right? ICOs first started on Mastercoin, first protocol on Bitcoin in 2012. That was Mastercoin was the first ever ICO. And then they really first got their notoriety in 2017, but then it failed. They didn't really come back last cycle. And boomers are now, once you get the Clarity Act, ICOs are going to be like the thing. So I'm like almost positive ICOs will be like the institutional bubble for crypto, right? Because they're just gonna what do boomers and TradFi think they have an edge in? They have an edge in IPOs because they've been doing it right for decades or you know centuries at this point. So you get the ICO 2.0. You see Coinbase coming in. They bought Echo. Kraken's partnered with Legion, and they're going in. So yeah, no doubt ICOs will probably be the big thing. The cool part though is that ICOs happen on chain. So that means that the liquidity is going to trickle on chain to all of these other emerging areas. So you say, you know, ICOs brings in trillions of dollars or hundreds of billions of dollars to the on-chain liquidity. But then you should be thinking of where does that liquidity go once all the traditional finance people and people participating in these ICOs on chain move it to, right? That's the flows, right? This is like the flow I was talking about in 2017, where it was like Bitcoin, ETH, ICOs, right? Or Bitcoin, ETH, altcoins. 2021, it was Bitcoin, ETH, NFTs. This time it was, or this last cycle, it was like Bitcoin, Solana, meme coins, right? And so this next time is going to be Bitcoin, ICOs. Where does the liquidity go? I would say probably agents, in my opinion, but you know, we'll kind of think about. And that's the things you should be thinking about now, because that's going to happen here pretty soon. Brian Armstrong is lobbying right now to get the Clarity Act live, right? Their whole goal is they have to get the Clarity Act introduced to Congress before the session ends, before the holidays. And if they do that, then you probably get it approved in Q1 next year, which then means that in Q2, you know, or Q3 is when these ICOs really start coming to market. So it's just things to think about.
Well, they'll have the edge though. And it kind of goes back to the boomers at that point, because you know, market caps are going to be starting at like, you know, $2, $5, $10 million versus getting in
Billion, bro, not million, billion.
Well, Monad is 2.5 billion. Yeah, I see.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
billions.
But everybody can buy a minimum of $100 on Coinbase right now, right?
The max is 500, I think.
It's right? Going to be the same as getting in VC coins from last cycle, right? Like getting into all the VC coins, whether it's, you know, I can't. I just don't.
Not from 2024. That was a wreck.
Well, in center of it,
you know,
like if you got in some of the V coins, well, yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, I do agree. I think that opportunity is going to be there, and you're absolutely right. It just does get cycled back, and it'll be a better version of what it was before. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's, you know, that's the goal here. Right. You think about it, it's like agents took off this cycle, right? So that's kind of the early version. There was some kind of AI stuff in 2019 with NFTs. So you could say maybe that was like, I think one of the rare peptides actually was like AI created art in 2018. So really the first AI stuff to crypto was 2018. Then it came back this cycle, right, as agents. It's accelerating at a faster pace. So you're saying, this is why I think it's like Bitcoin, ICOs, agents will be like the big thing. But there's obviously in a bull run though, in a big bull run, there's like many sectors that are taking off. But if you're a trader, you want to find who's the fastest horse and what's the biggest horse, right? Because you're going to try to make as much money as possible. So if this is right, this is that sell-off, you consider it post FTX or, you know, COVID kind of things where the liquidity gets drained. And then when the market comes back, there's a lot of other stuff. I saw San say something about Agent Hustle, Solana Secret. I got no updates, honestly. Haven't really even pursued it. It's Agent Hustle is just not there yet to be introduced into apps. We would like to have a mobile app. That is like one of our goals. But right now it's not the time. We got much bigger things. Again, Migrate Fund is, I've not built a product or been involved in a product that has sustained this much attention and demand ever. Emblem had, I think the biggest success of our ecosystem was probably Emblem Vault in 2021 when it did, and 2022. That went on for about 6 months, where it was about 50,000 ETH in trading volume across, and that was sustained. Migrate Fund launched in July, so we're now almost 5 months into this, and the demand is only increasing, and the interest is only increasing. So this is by far the most successful product that we've had, at least since I've been in the company. So that's kind of where the focus is. Obviously, we still have the 2 devs that are working on Agent Hustle, because that's the long play, right? You want this intelligence layer that's on top of it. I just say look out for I think next month, some of our enterprise level stuff that we'll be launching to compete with a lot of these big players, to where it's going to be very easy to build on top of Emblem. And I think then is when you start getting real institutional interest and demand. All these VCs that we've talked with over the last 3 years since I've been with the company, it's one thing they look for. What's your SDK? What's your APIs? Are people building on it? It needs to be digestible for people to understand. And the B2B side of thing is what a lot of people are looking for. So we really want to make that easy to send. Also, be much easier for me to just send you some docs than have to try to explain what the hell it is. So just look out for that next month. And once we have that, then you can take this to the Solana Secret team and be like, look here, this is the SDK. It's easy to add into it, rather than trying to go to the Solana Secret team and say, hey, can we integrate Hustle? And they're like, okay, well, how do we do it? And then you have to go back and forth a bunch of times. It's just like a gigantic pain in the ass. So interoperability, intelligence, and SDKs, for 2026.
Yeah, man. Well, this has been absolutely amazing. I did notice the Emblem Vault site got a little bit of an upgrade there. Looks pretty cool. So great job on that. But love to give you the stage one last time before we let you go.
Yeah, just buy Agent also, man. Join the future. Want to introduce some tokenomics and stuff whenever the users come back. Right now, posting things about tokenomics is not going to do anything. It's just going to fall flat. So you got to wait for the right time to do it. But early entry, I think it's at like 2.5 million or something like that. Really, really good opportunity, and excited for the future. So appreciate everyone for supporting us, and I'll see you guys next week.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend, Jake.
See you guys.
Take it easy.
Absolutely awesome as always. Jake's definitely, definitely bright. I hope he is right. I hope this cycle is very similar to 2017. If that's the case, then a February peak is kind of what he's expecting. I don't.
And then we would get something in December too, right?
We would get
that's whenever Bitcoin kind of went crazy in 2017. But the ICO thing kind of got me a bit bullish, because he's right. Things did get revived, each cycle, and there was like a main star. This cycle has yet to be seen what that is. I guess, like, you could say, if you're going all the way back to 2024, Solana and meme coins, but where does that trickle out to as well? So super.
The same problem with IPOs is going to happen with these ICOs. Like someone like Kathy Wood, she gets in at $30, but me and you have no chance of getting at $30. We have to get in at 65, and then she dumps on us, right?
Well,
so it's that's what happens with IPOs. She did the exact same thing with Circle. She did the same thing with Coinbase, right? And their IPOs, they get in at the value that no one else can get into, and they dump it on you at the value that you can get into. So I'm not really bullish on these ICOs coming from Coinbase.
Well, people are going to obviously complain if it's a industry-wide thing. There's going to be some different areas too that have different offerings and stuff. I mean, in 2017, the ICOs, people made out like a bandit with a lot of those. Even if they did get in at $1 million or lower for some of those back then, now they're going to be different. The big name ones are going to be very high, depending on what launchpad you're using too. Are you going to use a centralized launchpad like Coinbase, or are you going to use a DeFi launchpad?
They're not going to use DeFi if you're trying to onboard TradFi. You're going to use these centralized launchpads that we have no shot of gaining momentum on.
So there's going to be DeFi ones, and they're not going to get as much liquidity at first or whatever, depending on the product, right? But that's what Pump Fund says that they're trying to do is get these ICM type projects and stuff. So we got to see how it plays out, right? That's the biggest thing. But I mean, like that's where my mind went to first, obviously, because I brought that up too. You know, these are going to be higher market caps to get into, and the edge is not going to necessarily be on our side.
And the one part is like we're all here to get like 4, 5, 6, 10 X's, right? Kathy Wood's fine with 30% gain. I think that's who we're trading against now, right? So it's like the people who get their like we're going to be back holders on a lot of these larger ICOs, like we always are. But yeah, I'm just
that was the whole point of this
today.
cycle from last cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
It is
like
what it
yeah,
is. What's up, Paula? Paula made it in. Appreciate you. What's up, OR? Just turning in. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Appreciate every single one of you guys. Pepe Keck with a retweet. Chris Dev with the retweet. Appreciate all of you guys, man. I hope next week is better, dude. Because I feel defeated. This is the first time. This is the lowest that I've ever felt in crypto.
Yeah.
For me personally,
it's pretty there.
But
it's I mean, like, you know how I've been feeling. It hasn't been easy, right? But I do agree with I hope the Clarity Act gets through next week. And I know like you just talked about like the disadvantage with the ICOs and stuff, but I think more for the industry wide, it could be some positive stuff. I don't know. Just trying to look for that silver lining for sure. But
it's positive for Coinbase. It's amazing. Coinbase now they get to be, the IPO launchpad.
I think it's also positive for like serious teams that are trying to build serious things in the space, but don't want to make that move. But we'll see how it changes it. But I mean, hey, good episode for a Friday. 652 people showing out. That is awesome. We appreciate each and every one of you guys. Did you have anything else?
No, that's it. I'm ready to go.
All right. Without you guys, we couldn't do this. We appreciate you guys each and every day. As much as it seems like Shizzy might not show up tomorrow, he's definitely going to.
I'm not coming next week. I just get it.
But without our partners, we couldn't do this as well. So if you could check them out, we would greatly appreciate it. Emblem Vault is the interoperability layer for the Bitcoin ecosystem. If you're looking to jump your Bitcoin ordinals or NFTs like counterparty NFTs, Red Pepes, you got to use Emblem Vault. They've been doing it since 2021, jumping over counterparty NFTs to Ethereum. You can actually take out a loan against your Taproot Wizard right now on the Gandhi application, which is the largest borrowing and lending application on Ethereum for NFTs. So make sure you are using Emblem. They're going to have a lot more features in the future as well. They're going to be opening this up to other layers and environments like Solana. And speaking of Solana, they have the best AI product in the Solana ecosystem with agenthustle.ai. Agent Hustle, you can use them with a free subscription. There's minimum prompts that you can use though with that, but you can ask him, hey, find me the low cap gems in Solana, and he'll bring back a couple of options and why he thinks that these are solid options. You can also set buy and sell limit orders within Hustle, so you can go take care of whatever you need to take care of, and he'll do that on memecoins, any SPL token standard that you need him to do it for, and so he'll do that as there's a conditional trade engine built inside Hustle. And it's not just Solana, by the way, it's also Hedera. They have partnered with Hedera Foundation to be the #1 AI agent over there to help you trade Hedera HBAR tokens, right? Standard tokens over there. You can ask him for research as well. He'll help you guide you through that ecosystem over on Hedera. And they added BSC as well. So, man, they're just going to be a one-stop shop. I've been saying it for the longest time. You can have all those, tokens stacked in your Hustle, so you can be ready for whenever a token starts to take off. You can be ready right then and tell them to pick up some of that token for you. So super excited about the future chains and environments that he's going to be adding as well. But there's also another product within the ecosystem called Migrate.fund, which seems to be getting most of the attention right now. They just wrapped up their second cohort. So if you launch the token on a Solana launchpad, whether it's Pump Fund, Believe, Bonk, and you want to migrate to another launchpad or to your own LPs that you can manage yourself and get the most out of those fees, then you got to use Migrate.fund. They are the leading migration tool. They just finished up their second cohort. They already did the first one back in, I think it was September, October. And the second one had some big names in it. Pay AI is one of those, X402 products, right? So I think they got up to like $70 million market cap, but they just migrated over to their new pool. If you want more information to see if you can get into the next cohort spot, reach out to them at migrate.fun or emblem.vision, where you can learn about all the products I just broke down. And then Merlin Chain is uniting Bitcoin's strength through the power of AI. They have their Wizard version 2.0 that can guide you through Merlin Chain's ecosystem, but it also can swap for tokens outside the ecosystem in the Solana ecosystem or BSC ecosystem as well. All you got to do is have some Merlin Chain Bitcoin in your wallet, and it'll take care of the rest for you. But going back to the ecosystem, it can help you swap for other tokens within Merlin, and it can stake as well on your behalf. And speaking of staking, Merlin Chain uses the proof of stake security model, and you can participate in 3 ways. The first way is staking Bitcoin to earn more Bitcoin. This is a huge opportunity, in my opinion, not financial advice, but you can stake Bitcoin to earn 17% APR was the first that they were able to get for their first staking vault stakers there, right? That ended September 30th, but a new staking vault is open now, and it goes until January 8th. And they're going to be trying to get that same range of APR, minimum 8%, maximum 21%. Make sure you are taking advantage of that. You get Bitcoin for staking Bitcoin. Not very many places that can do that for you. And then 2 options for staking the Merlin Chain token. The first one is the flexible day-to-day. You earn 15% APR for staking Merlin Chain token, and you can claim your rewards every single day. And you can do whatever you want with those compound interest strategy, sell them, hold them in your wallet, whatever you want to do. If you want to withdraw the Merlin Chain tokens after you add them to the staking vault, it does take 7 days to cool down. Just know that. And then the last option is the bonded option. Same thing with the Merlin Chain token, but you earn 45% APR, and it's locked up for 6 months. The cool thing about this one is you can claim the rewards daily as well and do whatever you want with that as well. But head over to merlinchain.io, follow them on X as well for more updates. And thank you so much for checking out our partners.
Yep, great job, man, as always. And if you guys have a few more minutes and wouldn't mind checking out onchainrevolution.io, some of the best articles dating all the way back to 2023. If you know someone just entering your space, please send them on our website. We really feel like I'm going to get started and code up to where we are today. If you guys need a VPN, we have the NordVPN. Definitely lock it in for 2 years. Set it, forget it. It's $3. You can't beat it. It allow you to use sites like Hyperliquid, MEXC, and so many more. Definitely, if you need a VPN, check out our link there. And if you need a hardware wallet, we highly recommend Ledger. It's stupid not to have a Ledger. There was someone recently who had XRP in a XRP PAL or whatever it was called. Ended up not being hardware. Ended up being he got $2 million taken from him. Get the #1 wallet in the space. Use our link here to get discounts, and it definitely helps the show as well. And remember, guys, we are live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific, and 4 p.m. UTC. Check us out all week, guys. And until Monday.
Peace.
OnChain revolution, roll call, market recap. You not bullish enough, no. You're not bullish enough, no. Look at the price go, Bitcoin control. Why you still coping? Price action rolling. Don't fall for bear trap. Swapping indexes and putting it up in the sex. I can take profit right now. OnChain is where I be now. You can never look back. They don't want you to know. How do the market react? Fear and greed gotta adapt. Now we bridging the tokens and marching the network right now. You know how crazy we are. Nookies are savages now. They know how crazy we are. Chain abstraction, main attraction. OnChain revolution.